What up, Doe? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where six random guys from around the British Isles get together to talk about anything and everything Detroit Lions. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined by my co-host this evening, Ryan McCluskey. And yes, it's a Wednesday, which means yes, it is the college football podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since you last saw us. We had a week off last week just because we were waiting for bowl season to play itself out. Obviously, we've been doing the pick watch on there, but we are back and we have a fairly loaded show for you today. So, first of all, Ryan, been a little while since we've done this. How are you? How's everything?
Uh, I'm all right, yeah. Things are quieting down. Everything feels like it's winding down. Last game was, this morning at 2:00. So we've seen bowl season actually officially ended today, other than the Nationals, its finals itself. So it feels like it's weird because there's been such little football for the last maybe even 2 weeks, just a handful of games. So there's not been much to get teeth into.
No, that's the thing. Obviously, it's the first season of doing this. We've had so much to talk about during the season with all that going on. Now it's into the end. It's sort of trying to figure everything out, where you're going to go to and what you're going to do. So, yeah, anyhow, like I say, we are back this week and we've got a few bits for you. So we are going to be finishing off our bowl pick watch. Me and Ryan had our little challenge where we picked all the teams. We thought obviously bowl season's really just sort of a guessing thing, but we thought we'd have a little bit of a laugh with it. We're also going to be taking a look at the senior bowl rosters. They were announced in their finality yesterday. Jim Nagy had his show on YouTube, which I know we were both watching. There's some players who we're really looking forward to seeing. We're going to go through the position groups bit by bit and maybe point out some guys for you to have a little look out for. And then we're going to have a little look at the FCS and the FBS title games, which are coming up. We might do shows on them. Well, shows on the FBS one anyhow, a little more in detail because that's at the end of the month and it is some time away. But just going on to the FCS one, that's probably a good place to start the show because that is coming up, I believe, this weekend, the 8th of January, this coming Saturday, Montana State versus North Dakota State. If I am not much rightly mistaken, Ryan, you've been keeping a very close eye obviously on the FCS playoffs and that, and you had your opinions on it the last show we were on, but 3 days before, what's your thinking going into this weekend? Have you changed your mind maybe on who's going to win this? Has anything happened that's made, forced you to change opinion? Or what are you thinking as this game comes up?
It's hard, because Montana State have had the fairy tale season as it is, to be the lowest seeded team and managed to get through what I would consider the hardest side of the draw, because I thought that side was a lot harder for most teams trying to get through. And North Dakota State's half was tough, but there wasn't anyone there that I expected to possibly trip them up. I still feel like the big match experience does really weigh in NDSU's favour. They've been there, they've done it, they've wore the t-shirt, they've wore the hat, they've got the cardigan, they've got the whole wardrobe because they've managed to get there and get the job done so many times. This is pretty unknown territory for Montana State. I believe this is their first ever national championship. They've been like a program since the 40s, 50s. But with that, I suppose also comes no pressure. There's zero pressure on them to win. They are firm underdogs. I think the betting I saw once was it was like 11 to 14 points. So you can expect a good two-score favourite, I believe, for NDSU. If you look at some markets. I've seen one of the star players, Christian Watkins, the wide receiver who wears number 1. It's also a returner. I believe he's declared for the draft. So this will be his final game. He is most doubt one of the players to watch out for because he looks a phenomenal guy. He's well built, maybe the best FCS player in the draft. But then you've got, got his name, I think Tommy Bella. You got the backup quarterback from Montana State that had the fantastic game in the semi-final, throwing the ball and rushing the ball. He led in both categories. He had himself a day. I feel like this could be a lot closer than people think. I think these are two teams that are going to feel each other out pretty quickly, maybe a slow first quarter. And then I believe it's going to be come over to who can keep the ball cleanest, who can keep the ball not turn over, who is able to manage the clock. Because we know that NDSU can score points heavily and quickly. So the onus is going to be on Montana State to keep that offense off the field and then able to extend long drives, keep the time of possession firmly in their ball court. But I'll take NDSU, but I'd maybe by a score. I will go with the favourites because I feel like they're able to rise to the occasion a lot quicker. I think they'll start faster because there shouldn't be any nerves, not when they've been here so many times. You've got the odd jitters, but they will shake them away pretty quickly. I know their head coach is, I believe it's his first or second year. So he's still fairly new, but he's been around the program a while. He'll have them set up very quickly. So I think it's going to be a very interesting watch. It's not the game anyone was preparing themselves for, which I think makes it all that more interesting because you've got an unknown entity in the championship. So it's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, as I was saying, just listening to sort of talk about the FCS players and that, there's been sort of a lot of shocks in there along the way. And like you say, I think this was probably the last team, Montana State, you were expecting to be in there. So, fair props to them. And hopefully they can give us a good game on the day because there's been a lot of these playoff games so far. I'm going to talk about the FBS ones later that just have not been close at all. So it's going to be nice, hopefully, to maybe get a nice close final, see the underdog have a good go at it, let's say. But yeah, that is the FCS Championship game that will be taking place this Saturday, I believe. So there should be some streams knocking around for it somewhere, or it'll probably be on ESPN as well if you do have the app for that. So do give that a watch if you get a chance. Moving on, have a little quick stop with the transfer portal because, it's gotten quite active again. There was a little bit of a lull towards the end of Christmas when we were last really talking about it, but there's been an upturn sort of in transfer activity recently. And the big one is really to do with Oklahoma, their quarterback situation, which was already sort of, you thought it had been settled. There'd been a lot of battle in there this year. Obviously, Caleb Williams came in, took the job off Spencer Rattler, who then transferred out. You thought Caleb Williams was going to be the starter there for some time, but a few days ago, I think it was now, he actually entered his name into the transfer portal, and we were all wondering why. And then it came out that Oklahoma have flipped Dylan Gabriel from UCLA, and now he's going to go there. And it's just when you thought it'd start quieting down a bit, everything's going crazy again. But it's an interesting choice for Oklahoma going to Gabriel. You don't know whether they've brought him in to be competition or whether they want him outright to be starter.
It's a question of which came first, the egg or the chicken. Did Gabriel commit first and then Williams got wind and said, like, screw this, I'm the starter, I'm going to go somewhere else? Or did Williams enter in and then Gabriel thought, well, I don't really want to go to UCLA, but I want to start somewhere. He's in his final year of eligibility now, so he can't go anywhere where he won't start. So going to Oklahoma, where they've got decent level backups, he must have been given some form of assurances that the job is his if he wins it in camp. So it's a big school. Like, say, UCLA would have liked his dual threat nature. It could have been a great replacement for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So for them, it's a huge loss. And it now means they're back in the window again. And they won't get Caleb Williams. This definitely won't be a like-for-like swap. They're certainly not high profile enough in the Pac-12. I'll be watching Ole Miss like a hawk. John Rice Plumlee, the quarterback wide receiver, entered the portal the day before. So they've not even got a backup / athlete wide receiver. There's no actual starting quarterback there. So I imagine Lane Kiffin will have dropped Caleb Williams a text saying if he wants to go there down to Oxford, which I think could be a really good fit. So there's not that many starting jobs available. If you're an out-and-out guy that can start, there is limited opportunity now to go in and just take the driver's seat of a school that you can actually get to the playoffs. He has left it very late in the day, in my opinion, for him to decide that the Sooners are not the team. Now, he has come out and said that if he doesn't get the right offer, he will return. But the only thing is going back to a more crowded quarterback room than when he left. So is he now in a position where he can return? So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. He's got tons of eligibility left. That's the only thing that works in his favour. Gabriel is on last chance saloon. But this kid's, like, say, is just, don't even know if he'll redshirt this year, but he's got a good at least 3 years left in him. So Even if he makes a mistake this year and he has to win again next year, the world's not over for him. But teams' spots are drying up, so let's see how strong his market really is.
Well, I mean, you say that, but I mean, obviously, yeah, the big spots are starting to go, but there's still a lot of guys out there. Obviously, Emery Jones has not found a home. Cameron Ward, everyone's waiting to see where Cameron Ward goes. He's got so many offers, including from Ole Miss themselves. He seems to be taking forever to make his decision, which is a bit of an odd one, especially if you think the Ole Miss job's there. That might be in danger now if you say Caleb Williams has been dropped to the text and wants to go there. I know Marshall's starting quarterback. He's just entered the transfer portal. There's still a few knocking round, seeing if they can get these last minute jobs, aren't there?
There is, but with no disrespect to them, like they're crap jobs. They're not going to give you any sort of national platform. Caleb Williams wouldn't be seen dead at Marshall. I have no doubt about that. I saw today as well that Emery Jones reported for a meeting at Florida. He will be removing his name from the portal tomorrow. It's to be expected. So feels like he tested the water, didn't get what he wanted. I don't know, there's something weird about Oklahoma because, like I said, Cameron Ward is now considering Nebraska. Well, God help him if he goes there and Scott Frost's team because they're a bit of a shit show. Pardon my French right now. They're a total mess. They'll never be great. But maybe he's not ready for the school like Ole Miss. Maybe that's too much pressure to jump straight into the ACC. Maybe he needs to take a crash course and a smaller route in the FBS. But there are jobs there. There's some sides. There are likes of the Calzadas. It's like there's schools like that are not in the Power Five. There's the Group of Five school. So it's going to be carefully picking the right situation for them. So it's going to be certainly interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, it needs to get wrapped up soon for a lot of these guys. They need to get themselves in and settled so they can crack on with their off season. In terms of the portal, is there anything else, any other moves that have catched your eye or not? I know there's still guys going in. James Madison, I know they lost one of their top receivers to the portal today. Wake Forest, they're starting running back. He's in there as well. Is there anything else that sort of grabbed your attention from guys who've gone in?
Well, the weirdest one I saw was my own running back. So if anyone didn't see DeMonte Trayman, the 4-star running back who is a freshman, who is from the Ohio area, has decided to go back to his old high school position. And he's gone as I don't know if it's a scholarship or preferred walk-on, but he's gone to play linebacker at Ohio State next year, which seems a strange mix to play 1 year of college at running back and then go over to the other side of the ball. So that is one is going to certainly be interesting to see how it pans out next year, if he sees much for workload or if he's just a special teamer. But if it don't pan out, they're expecting to see him at running back sometime soon. But it seems like a school that I don't know if there's not that many opportunities for snaps there, especially when no one's seen him play a linebacker for such a long time. To swap positions does seem like a bizarre decision, but it's gone back home. I think that's where he is. So he wants to be near his family, he wants to play, just try and maybe win a championship, be on the roster. I don't blame him, but I don't think that's best for any sort of pro career, swapping positions so late.
Yeah, it's just a massive game of chance. I think when you go in the portal for a lot of these guys, like I say, maybe they want to go home, just a bit of a change of scenery. But sometimes it is to be better. It's better to be where you are than risk it all going elsewhere. But it works in different ways for everyone. So that's really sort of everything for the transfer portal that we've noticed anyhow. Really this week, we'll see what carries on with some of the bigger guys going forward. But we're going to move on now, and one of our bigger sections we're going to take a look at today. As I said yesterday, the Senior Bowl is on its way soon, and the rosters there were finalized yesterday. ESPN, they had their show on about 8 o'clock last night, our time, and they went through some of the players who've committed in there, and there's some very, very intriguing prospects out there. I mean, this could potentially be quite a good game with some of the talent on show. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a little look through the roster, through the different position groups, maybe highlight a few guys who you want to keep an eye out on for this. But what date is it actually on again? I can't remember from the top of my head. It's not too far down the line, is it, the Senior Bowl?
No.
Anyhow, It's coming up soon. I know that much.
It's in the next few. It's in the next few weeks because next week we find out the coaches from the NFL draft order.
Yes, and well, I guess if it's the top two,
We'll be there.
we already know who it's going to be. It's going to be us and unto be known. Oh God, can you imagine if Jim Caldwell gets the job there? Jim Caldwell maybe down there, old Lions group. That could be quite interesting. But yeah, it'll be the Jags and the Lions, I assume, who are going to be coaching this. So they're going to get a top look at some of these guys. So yeah, as I say, we're gonna have a little look through at these. Oh, Ash has just said in the comments, hey, all right, Ash, I'm trying to get onto Twitch at the minute to be able to look at any comments on there. So if you are in Twitch, bear with me. I'm just waiting for a code. Matt's gone for a cuppa somewhere. So when he gets back, I'll try and get that off him and log in. And if you've got any comments on there, I'll read them out. But Ash goes, didn't Patrick Queen move from running back to linebacker at LSU? I believe he's correct on that score, is he not? I think that you're right, Ash.
He did, but I think doing that at the same school is probably a bit easier than having to do it at a totally different school, different division.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I do. A lot of players do change in college, in fairness. So I suppose, yeah, they get there. But anyhow, we're going to get onto these rosters. So we're going to start on the offense. So there are 6 quarterbacks traditionally who take place in the Senior Bowl. They all usually get about a quarter and a bit each to be able to state their claim in this one. So this year, the 6 guys that we've got are Sam Howell from North Carolina. You've got Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh. You've got Desmond Ridder from the Cincinnati Bearcats. You've got Carson Strong from the Nevada Wildcats. You've got Malik Willis from the Liberty Flames. And you've got Bailey Zappa from Western Kentucky. Now, just a first look at these guys. This is going to be a very good game in terms of the talent that's on show here, because I know a lot's been said about this quarterback class. There's not any outstanding number 1 guys, or hell, maybe even first round guys altogether. Obviously, Matt Corral is the one exception to that, and he won't be playing in this. I don't think he would have anyhow, but he is rehabbing an ankle injury, which he picked up in their bowl game. But all of those first 5 are projected, somewhere around maybe the late end of the first, top end of the second. There's potentially a lot of good guys in here. And I mean, you've got a good variety on show as well. So you've got like your pocket guys like Pickett and Ridder. You've got, and Carson Strong for that matter. You've got your, strong, got your guys with big arms who can move around in the pocket if you want to. You've got like Sam Howell there. You've got Bailey Zappa. And then you've got the true dual threat of all these guys, Malik Willis in there. I mean, who are you going to be looking at most out of these 6, and who benefits most from having a really good performance in this Senior Bowl in your eyes?
For me, the key person that has to have a good game is Ridder, because Ridder had a terrible playoff game. He did absolutely nothing. He looked like a deer in headlights. That was obviously the opposition, but that really hurt his stock. Biggest stage of his career, and in all fairness, it really didn't go all that well. He did not manage to shake off or answer any of the weaknesses or issues that have been raised by his game. So he really needs at least maybe a half a football to solidify his stock. Because even though we saw Sam Howell obviously didn't win his game, but he still hung in there. North Carolina, they still showed what it was about. It was still running the ball well. We know what we get with so Howell, Pickett, and Strong. You kind of know what you're getting. Ridder, for me, he's a bit of a mystery. He's had a long career at Cincinnati, but I don't know what he is. I'm told he ain't got the biggest arm. Don't know if it's not the strongest arm, but he can make all the throws. He's sometimes a bit rigid in the pocket. So I need to see a little bit more from him before I'm committed on throwing like a second rounder at him. With Malik Willis, well, he's the kind of guy that's boom or bust. He's Trey Lance 2.0. He's the kind of guy where if you keep him in the pocket too long, he's not going to succeed. But where you get designed run plays for him, or the player breaks down and he's forced out the pocket and scramble, it's the kind of guy that might be able to make a little bit of magic happen with his feet. But we need to see, is he pro ready? Or does he need to return a year? Because I'm pretty sure he is yet to declare. I'm pretty sure he's still an underclassman. I'm not sure if he's actually fully declared yet. Has he?
No, I don't believe he has, but I think the vast majority of the guys who go to this bowl game, they generally are declaring for the draft, I believe. So, I mean,
Unless it goes badly, yeah.
Unless it goes bad. Yeah, I
I'd
think
say the underclassmen have until I think it's the 22nd of January where you must inform NCAA going for the draft, so you have to return next year. So, not some here will probably decide maybe if they'll get a draft grade at the Senior Bowl, they will actually get some grades as well. So there'll be some decisions to make. And Bailey Zappi, everyone knows what he's about. Strong, little compact passer. He's got a nice little motion. He don't waste any energy. He's got a big arm on him. He can make every single throw in the book. But has he got the frame? I don't know if he's a bit fragile. He's a bit small. I worry about him maybe at the next level. Can he take hits? I've not seen him take hits like Sam Howell this year. He's been behind a better offensive line, so I'm not sure about his toughness. So there's questions about some of them there.
I think, yeah, you mentioned about the quarterback class there. I mean, I think they're one of the ones, not many quarterbacks have actually declared for this draft so far. I think I was chatting with Matt about this yesterday. And outside of some of the bigger guys in this, I think there's only Ellaby, the Western Michigan quarterback, and that god-awful one from Cal. I won't be touching a Cal quarterback this year, but I think they're the only two later ones who've declared so far. So there's still a lot of guys who need to do so. But, there's a few names you mentioned there. Obviously, the wild card in this is Bailey Zappa. Now, I mean, his season, 475 completed passes out of 686 attempts. It's a 69.2% completion rating, which is really damn good. 5,967 passing yards, 62 touchdowns, both brand new FBS records, 11 interceptions, and a passer rating of 167.5 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, for me, I feel like the other guys are all cemented up around rounds 1 and 2. I think that's not an unfair thing to say with all these. Zappa, I think he's the only one where you can't really put a grade on him. I mean, I don't know where the hell he's going to be picked, but I feel that if he has a big game here and shows that, he can step up against maybe a bigger quality of opposition, then he could potentially reach more of the upper echelons. I don't know. I mean, the season he's had is just amazing. No, I don't think you can deny that one, can you?
No, you can't deny that he's had a huge season, but that's because of the offense he's in. He plays air raid football, which does not translate well to the NFL historically. Air raid quarterbacks do not have a good history of playing in the NFL because it's not a pro style offense. It's not realistic. He throws 40, 50 passes a week. At the NFL, you can be sometimes passing 15, 20 times a week. So you've got to be able to maximize your efficiency. He gets to throw a lot, so he also gets to complete a lot. Can he work better on a smaller sample size running a pro offense? That is the big question about him. How relatable are his skills to the NFL? So when he gets in amongst the NFL colleges and the scouts and the actual coaches themselves, they're going to be able to work out and decipher if he's someone that's able to manage a balanced offense. Not that Western Kentucky couldn't run the ball, it's just they didn't have to because they knew they could rely on him. And when edge rushers get quicker and faster, he won't have such a good pocket to work with. He won't be able to throw it 50 times a game. But as you mentioned, right now you can consider he might go anywhere between 4th and 5th or undrafted. The margin's that wide, which tells you he's got a big decision to make. If he gets a grade where they say you could go in the 4th or the 5th, he might say, that's fine, I'll declare. But if they tell you too much of a wild card, we might think you slip undrafted, he might well say, well, actually, I'm not going to declare. If he can use extra eligibility, he might be like, I want to refine my game, come back in next year's class. So there's a lot of answers. But we don't know the questions are yet. So some of these guys have got stuff to work on. This could make or break their draft stock.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every guy in this has a point to prove. Every one of them can improve their draft stock in one way or another, whether it be Willis having a game where he doesn't throw picks, just Zappa showing that he can work against some of the better guys. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, personally myself, I'm looking definitely at Sam Howell. I'm so torn over whether I want the Lions to spend a draft pick on him this year or not. But I mean, he's had a really good college career in fairness. He's 713 of 1,117 pass attempts, 64% completion percentage, 10,283 yards, 92 touchdowns, 23 interceptions. 164.2 passer rating. He's also got 17 rushing touchdowns and actually has 2 receiving touchdowns. So he can do a little bit of everything, but he is gutsy. You know, he is as tough as nails. He's got a few kinks to work out on, and he gets far too much blame for what happened in that Virginia Tech game at the start of the season. So hopefully he can have a good solid outing in this, and we get to see what he's all about. We'll move it on, so we've got a lot of positions to go through here. So we're going to move on from the quarterbacks. We're going to take a look at the running backs now, and there are some very interesting names on show who I'm going to be really interested to have a look at. So in this list, you've got James Cook from Georgia, younger brother of Dalvin. And when you hear the name Dalvin Cook, especially in the NFC North, you wince a little because, especially to the Lions, he's been an absolute menace over the years. I mean, he's put that many yards on. I've lost about count now. And he's got a younger brother who's coming up through the ranks, so he's going to be on full show. You've got Hassan Haskins from the Michigan Wolverines. So if there are any Michigan fans in the house, one of your own has declared he's had a really good season in tandem with Blake Corum as Michigan made it to the FCS playoffs. And then after that, a few more interesting things. So you've got Dameon Pierce from Florida. Obviously, the Gators have had a really potent running attack this year, and he has been a central part of that. You've got Devontae Price from Florida International. You've got Brian Robinson Jr., the lead back for Alabama this season. You've then got the Baylor Bulldog himself, Abram Smith, and then Ryan's very own Rachaad White from Arizona State. Now, there's some really good names on show here, but obviously we'll start with your guy, Rachaad White. He's had himself a year and a bit. You know, what are you looking for from him in this game? And if anyone's watching who's not really seen him before, what can they expect to see from him in this game?
I'll start with saying Rachaad White is the best pass catching back, I think, in this draft class. He's just left the Pac-12 with nearly a perfect 90 grade. He's nearly 6'3". He's about 220, 225. So he's probably up there with Brian Robinson as the most physically imposing back on this roster. He's a big strapping young lad. He does all his best work when he's catching passes out of the backfield. He almost led the nation in yards per reception. He had a phenomenal year catching a ball at the backfield. He's so elusive. He hurdles people, spin moves. It's not often you see a guy as big as him with such a big frame, so light on his feet and balanced. He had a phenomenal year. He was probably up there with Zach Charbonnet as maybe the best back of the whole Pac-12 this year, even in a bad Arizona State offense. But we ran the ball so heavy, we relied on him so well that I knew he was going to do really well. His career plan trajectory, if I remember, what's the back that was at the Dolphins that was really, really big? He came out of Arizona State. I can't remember, but he kind of, Kalen Ballage, he's got his kind of frame, but he catches better out the backfield. They're two very similar playing guys. So this guy what you need to see from him is he needs to prove that he's an every down back, that he's able to carry an NFL workload and run between the tackles when asked, because he's got the big frame to do it, but I don't know if he's got the top end speed once it hits the hole. So that's really sometimes where he lets himself down when he's running in between the tackles, but it's not for lack of size or strength or ability to carry the ball. Has had the odd fumble this year, as have a lot of ASU backs. So ball security wasn't great, but he's taken a lot of touches. So he's someone that he's not going to be one of the first guys off the board, but he's going to be someone that can come in, start as a complementary back, but may work his way up one day as a lead back. But he's going to be a name to watch, and I'm really glad he's at the Senior Bowl because I think the coaches will really like him. There's an awful lot there to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I say there's, just outside of himself, you've got some other really good guys in here as well. Obviously, Haskins, he's had his big year for Michigan. He's well with Corum, but I suppose, can he do it without him now in his own right? But I know there's, I think he's up in about the 60s, the 70s at the minute. He's projected to go in the draft, so a lot going there. James Cook, I don't know how much of a chance you've had to watch him at Georgia this year, but I mean, he's had a decent year. He's had 107 carries, 651 yards, about 6 yards a carry and 7 touchdowns. He's also a receiving threat. He's had 25 receptions for 270 yards and 4 touchdowns, about half of which he got in the playoff game the other day. He not really used as pass carrier there, but I mean, you've only got to look at the lineage that he's coming from, and uh, this guy's got a lot of talent there, and he's certainly one who we've got to watch out for in this.
Yeah, and he's quite fresh as well. As you mentioned, he's only had, 130, 140 touches this year. That's not a lot for a running back. They've switched a lot with Georgia because they've also got Zamir White. So he's been part of more of a tandem. But 6 yards a carry, that's a very healthy target. I'd say he's one of those guys, I think he's 5'10", 5'11". He's not the biggest guy, but he's got a nice change of pace. He does well work. He's able to cut through the hole. He's able to follow his blocks. So he's someone that could work as a nice complementary back as the next NFL. I don't know if he's going to be he might not be your Dalvin Cook. He might not be your every single down, but it could be an option for when you change pace on second or third down. And you may well see him on the likes of special teams as well. Good with the ball in his hands. You may well see him as a returner one day as well. Be working upon special teams. So there's value in there. I think in these middle rounds, like I said, I've seen Devontae Price play. He's one of the smaller dudes. He's only like 5'8", 5'9", out of FIU, I believe, but he has got a blistering turn of pace. He's had a good year on a team that hasn't made that many waves or ripples, but he looks like a fun guy to watch. He's compact. He's got a low center of gravity, which you look for in a running back these days. Balance, where they're able to change direction. So he's someone that could definitely he'll be one of the guys to watch, one of the lesser known people to watch out of these drills as well. So he could put on some shows. It's nice to see we've got some fullbacks as well.
Yeah, I'll go through them in a second. Not disrespecting fullbacks, but I don't think they're going to be in there for the whole run thing. So, quickly, Ash is in the chat. He mentions FSU legend Dalvin Cook. Yes, yes, we're aware. You love your Florida State, don't you, Ash? Bless. Just quickly going back to Zappa, he goes, didn't Minshew play an air raid in college? If so, would you be happy drafting Zappa if you knew he was the next Minshew? No, that's a tough one. If you're looking for a backup quarterback and he's late enough in the draft, then absolutely yes. But I don't know. I'm not so sure about that one. We've not got many picks on day 3 at the minute, so I don't know if we need to put them to positions we actually need this time and the other. Where were we? So running backs. Yeah, so I mean the other one here, and I mean this is one of the big breakout stories from this year because this guy was playing linebacker until 2020, but that's the Baylor running back, Abram Smith. I mean, what a season he's had. Obviously, Baylor came up just short in the Big 12 championship battle, but they had some big wins this year. He had 257 carries this year, went for 1,601 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, got himself 12 tutters in there as well. I mean, this is his first real year of production. I mean, obviously he's been on defense for the last 3, so I mean, it's been a great story for him, though. I mean, he's one that, again, if he has a really good senior bowl here, he could be a real wild card in this running back class. Because, the only trouble is, when you don't have that much tape on the card, it's a bit hard to predict what you're going to get. But that can be a good thing as well as a bad. Plus, not a lot of mileage on the clock.
No, he's had one strong year. Like they trust him to carry the ball as well. 250 touches is an NFL caliber kind of season. That's what you'd expect someone like Nick Chubb to get in a year. So he's pounded the rock this year. He's a bruiser. He is a physically dominating back. he's what you call a north-south guy, I think. He hits the hole or he comes back on like a reverse. He takes his cut and goes upfield. He goes forward. He goes through people. Doesn't try to always go around them, but he's got the ability to take the hits. He'll be able to be a bruising back, I think, in the NFL. He could be someone like hate to say it, maybe he's the Derrick Henry kind of type. He's what you look for. He's got the strength. He's got the shoulders. Runs a bit upright when backs are bigger like that, and they know they're a bit stronger. They don't always have the lowest center of gravity to town. But for 1 year and what he's done, how much he's been trusted to just take the pressure off of a quarterback that's young. He's had a phenomenal year. As you mentioned, there's not much tape to go off of. But then maybe, I don't know how well he did as a linebacker, but he does offer that kind of dual threat. If he's able to go both ways and play special teams as well, when he's not on the field as a running back, he does offer some sort of form of versatility. But he seems to have made the transition from linebacker to running back well, which isn't always the common theme. So it could be someone really to watch there. And maybe this 1 year of film could land him at the right spot in the Senior Bowl, could be a steal in the draft somewhere.
Yeah, so I love it. There's just such a really varied type of running back here. So, yeah, say you've got some of your ground and pound, you've got some of your more receiving backs in there. But I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of these guys. So I don't think we're going to be aiming at any of the ones towards the top of the draft, but there are a lot of enticing prospects later on. Obviously, you mentioned there that there are a couple of fullbacks involved as well. You've got Connor Hayward, the fullback from Michigan State, and you've got Jeremiah Hall, the fullback from Oklahoma. Connor Hayward, he's in his 5th year now. He's had 211 rushing attempts for 825 yards, 5 touchdowns, and he's had 96 receptions for 711 yards and 6 touchdowns in his 5 years at Michigan State, although his biggest year was back in 2018, so that was a little while ago. And then Jeremiah Hall, he's had 4 years at Oklahoma. He's had 68 rushing attempts, 757 yards, and 12 touchdowns. And he's had, that's receiving, sorry, 68 receptions, 757 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he's rushed 13 times for 53 yards and another touchdown. So a couple of intriguing prospects. I don't know if you know a great deal about either of them, but seem to have a solid resume behind them both. They've both been in the league quite some time, 4 and 5 year vets there.
I've seen some of them, yeah. Now, what's difficult about being a fullback in college is that in the NFL, only so many use them. So these guys have got a real tough job. These need to prove that they can be the H-back as it is. They have to be the hybrid. They've got to be able to play fullback and tight end. Now, my closest comparison is Dalton Keene when he came out of Virginia Tech last year. He looked just like Connor Hayward. You'd seen them there for a few years where they would block and protect the quarterback, but they will also come off the end of the line, maybe in the red zone. They can be a short yardage receiving threat. And that meant the Patriots spent a pick on Dalton Keene. So I'd like to think one of these two can do the same. They need to show that they can be a durable blocker. So they need to be able to create holes in short yardage as a fullback. They need to be able to block well when they're required on like 2 sets or helping set the edge of the line. But you also need to have their nous and some sort of receiving ability in your short yardage to go out on your out routes, go on crossing routes. So they're going to be busy at the Senior Bowl. They're going to be doing everything. They're going to see how durable they are, how good they are as a blocker in line, and how good they are as possibly as a receiving threat. So there's a reason there's only 2 of them there. They're going to get a lot of attention, I feel, because the group of tight ends this year is not good. I do not feel like this is a strong year for tight ends coming out of college. So if you're a fullback, you need to show you can make the transition and be able to go both ways. So I like what Connor Hayward has to offer. He's got that big frame. He's been leading the way at times for the likes of Kenneth Walker. But I've also seen him come off the end of the line and help in the receiving game. And that's what he needs to show.
Yeah, absolutely. Best to them. Hopefully they can show that, for all the scouts there on show. Ash is talking about the new Kabinda in the chat, about linebackers, a running back, fullback who can also play special teams there. There is no such thing as a new Kabinda. There is only one Jason Kabinda, and he is friend of the podcast. He's on about the Baylor running back. He's on about Abram. There's only one Jason Kabinda. He got his first touchdown for the Lions recently. I apologize if that's wrong, but yeah, we endorse Jason Kabinda fully. We've got the interview on our channel if you want to go back and watch that. He's an absolutely wonderful dude. He's up for Walter Payton Man of the Year. Obviously, I'm not suggesting you would replace him, but there's only one fullback for the Detroit Lions, and we have him hopefully for many years to come. So that's the running backs there. So we're going to move on to the receivers now. And oh boy, there are some. If you're looking for prospects who could be really, really good, then this is a great list here. So start off, you've got Calvin Austin III from Memphis. You've got Jahan Dotson from Penn State, Romeo Doubs from Nevada, Ryan's favorite, Dontario Drummond from Ole Miss. You've got a pair of SMU receivers. You've got Danny Gray and you've got Reggie Robertson Jr. You've got Velus Jones Jr. from Tennessee, the return specialist. Bo Melton from Rutgers. You've got Alex Pierce, Desmond Ridder's favorite target at Cincinnati. Then you've also got Ryan's favorite, Khalil Shakir from Boise State. And then you've got Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama. You've got Trey Turner from Virginia Tech. I mean, Oh, that is just like a smorgasbord of really intriguing receiver talent for this one. But I suppose the first name your eyes go to if you're looking at ones higher in this draft has to be Jahan Dotson, obviously the receiver from Penn State. 12 games this year, 91 receptions, 1,182 yards, 12 touchdowns, averaging about 8 receptions per game. He's one of Sean Clifford's favorite targets there. I mean, he's had an absolutely unbelievable season, but he heads a very good supporting cast there in terms of intriguing draft prospects.
Yeah, there's good. There's a lot of variation. You've got big guys here like Alec Pierce, who's 6'3". You've got smaller guys like Calvin Austin, who's one of your short, explosive kind of guys, who's also a really good returner, comes out the slot. Calvin Austin, Memphis, good pass-heavy offense. You've got the possession receivers like Dontario Drummond, who became Matt Corral's best friend this year, really high yards per catch, who was able to take the roof off defenses at times. Khalil Shakir, who can play cornerback, receiver. He's also a kick returner, punt returner. He gets special teams touchdowns. Jalen Tolbert, who's a big bruiser. Guy's like 6'2". He's a really strong outside guy. Don't get the most separation, but he's got strong hands. He's got a good vertical. He's got a nice radius. He's able to snag balls in there. Really helped Jake Bentley in his final year. And then two SMU guys who have probably had the most work out of anybody here, because they've had like Tanner Mordecai slinging passes to them all year. Reggie Robson had such a good year. He's been really good as an outside threat. He's got a good frame. He's able to show strength, get off press, get off line of coverage. He's able to get in behind guys, take passes to the house. He good completion rate. He's been someone that's been really fun to watch. Can work his way from inside to outside well, and he has that nice bit of speed as well. So it's probably one of the most varied groups I've seen for quite a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, you say you've just mentioned some of those. So you've got some really great returning guys in there. Obviously, Velas Jr., Shakir, they're two really good receivers. I think Velas has over 2,000 return yards in his college career, which is going on. But there's some very intriguing names. I mean, Jalen Tolbert, you mentioned him. Obviously, if you want your big receiver, the one who's going to be able to dominate and bully quite a bit. If you're not going to go for your Treylon Burks at the top of the draft, then this is kind of a guy who you might look for in his stead a bit later on. I mean, what a season he's had. 82 receptions, 1,474 yards, averaging about 18 yards per catch and 8 touchdowns. I mean, he's had a great season there in a sort of a hit and miss season for South Alabama. But I mean, who are you looking forward to seeing the most out of this? I know there's a varied thing there, but I mean, in terms of lines, I mean, for me, it's Romeo Doubs. I really want to see Romeo Doubs, but I'm sort of biased because of the Carson Strong connection this year. But he's had over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns on the year, and he's such an intriguing prospect going in. But who out of them are you most looking forward to seeing?
For me, it's been Alec Pierce, because I've watched Cincinnati games and he looks like the most pro-ready. He's got 6'3", but he's got a leaner frame, but he's just really solid. Like, you don't have that burst of pace. He's not the fastest or can finish off plays the most, but what he gives to me is super reliable. Desmond Ridder trusts him with his life. He's been the key man, the go-to man in Cincinnati in such a good year. It looks like someone that could look as a possible number 2 at the next level. He's got reasonably good hands. He's not super explosive, or you're not going to get huge plays out of him. But I think he can be that kind of Mr. Reliable. He can get on a first down. He can help you move the chains. So he's someone that might have a steady career at the next level. He's going to be one of those middle round kind of guys, but I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. See just how pro-ready he is, because all the others maybe offer some sort of more speed, or they offer that dangerous return, where he doesn't really have that about him, because he's not the most supreme athlete, but he's got big body, decent frame, but he's more of a possession kind of guy. So he's not someone that's going to take the roof off anyone. So I want to see how athletic he is at the Senior Bowl and hopefully at the Combine as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this is just the first step on the road to the draft. You've got the combines, you've got your pro days to come afterwards, but certainly it's probably your last biggest setting in a game situation where you're going to be able to put your name forward for the draft. And a lot of these guys, again, they are going to really be able to influence the draft stock here. I mean, a lot of these middle ones, you never know where they're going to go. Ash in the chat, he says he's looking for Daubs, Shakir, Drummond, and Talbot. That's a very good selection of wide receivers there. If you can come away with one or two of those in the draft, they do really well. You would be a very happy bunny indeed. So yeah, a lot of wide receivers to keep your eye on in there. Now we're going to move on to the just heavily maligned tight end group here by Ryan. He's not a fan of this group at all. I'm maybe a little on the side. I think there's a few guys in here who are certainly worth keeping an eye on for this. So we're going to go through them. So the tight end room, you've got Daniel Bellinger from San Diego State. You've got Grant Calcaterra from SMU. You've got Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin, Charlie Kohler from Iowa State, Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. If any of you follow the main podcast, you'll have heard his name mentioned many a time. Trey McBride from Colorado State, Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State, and Cole Turner from Nevada. Now, before Ryan goes on and trashes this lot, I think there are some very intriguing prospects in here for me, and ones I'm certainly looking forward to seeing. Obviously, the big one, it depends what you're looking for in this draft, but there's two really good receiving options that I like for my Titans in here. Obviously, the first one is Isaiah Likely. He's been playing for the last few years at Coastal Carolina, one of Grayson McCall's favored targets there. I mean, he had about 240 yards in one game earlier this college season. He went crazy. He had 59 receptions on the year, 912 yards, about 16 yards per catch. He's got 12 touchdowns, but in his total college career, he's got over 2,000 yards and 27 touchdowns. This guy is one of the ultimate receiving threats in this tight end class, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can carry that on in this game. But obviously, tight ends don't just receive, you've also got to look at their blocking ability, and that's one thing I'm really going to be closely keeping an eye on him here. I hope they do use him in that capacity, so you get to see just what his blocking ability is like. And then the second of the big receiving threats, I guess, there, you've got Cole Turner from Nevada, the 6'4", 6'5" guy, one of Carson Strong's favorite targets. He had 677 yards on the season out off 62 receptions. He got 10 touchdowns there. I mean, again, he's not the best tackler in the world, I'll admit, but in terms of a receiving option, he is big, he is brutal, he gets all over the field, and he's another intriguing prospect to watch if you want him more of a receiving option there. But for me, the big guy out of this lot, and I've been watching his tape more recently because I was sort of sent in his direction when looking at tight end prospects, that's Trey McBride from Colorado State. And I really, really like this guy. So he's got 86 receptions on the season, 1,017 yards, about 12 yards per carry, only got one touchdown, but that's not his job. This guy moves the chains. He does all the dirty work. He has absolutely no problems whatsoever initiating contact, getting in blocks. He is mean. He is nasty. He gets in there and gets the dirty work done in the blocking game. But when it comes to you needing yards in the receiving game, he can hit one guy, hit two guys. He can get you those really tough, grindy yards that you need. So if you're looking for someone who's got both facets of the game possibly in his stride, this is the guy to look out for. And the Lions need a blocking tight end next year. So he's the one that my microscope is going to be firmly on for this game. And I really hope he gives a good presentation of himself, because if he does, then going to be talking about him a lot more. But I'll hand it over to you, Ryan. Obviously, you're not as high on this class. What is it really that you're not too keen on, or is just no one who sort of fits the profile of something you want for the Lions this year?
There's not many that I spend a pick on. Isaiah Likely for me, the issue is that he's basically just a wide receiver. He's only like 6'2", just a bit over. He's a small tight end. I don't think he can block. I don't think he'll be able to block at all at the next level. I don't want him on the end of the line. I think I'd put him as probably going to end up playing receiver next year. Or he could move once he shifts a few pounds, but I don't know if you trust him blocking at next level. I agree Trey McBride is easily the most complete guy in this round. He may only get into the middle rounds because there's no one in this draft that will even get to like Hawkinson. You don't even have anyone that's like Andrews. There's no one that's got a sniff of even going in like the second, maybe in the third, because it's not the cleanest group. There's a lot of good receivers, as you mentioned, but there's not a lot of great blockers. Jake Ferguson, now he's a good blocker, but only because he comes from such a run-heavy offense in Wisconsin. He's got a big 6'4" frame. He's not the most reliable as a receiver, but I like his game, what he does on the end of the line, so that I like what he offers there. Cole Turner, what you mentioned, great in the red zone. He's got that big 6'5" frame. I know that Carson Strong really liked him, especially when he got down towards the 30-20s. He'd look for that kind of guy in the end zone because he's got a big, strong frame. You're able to pitch one up to him. He can go down and bring it in. So there's 2 or 3 guys there. There's some that I didn't even consider, like, say, Grant Calcaterra. He's bounced around teams a few times, so he's going to struggle to really show something. Charlie Kohler, I think he's the biggest. He's like 6'6", 6'7". He's got the huge wingspan like an albatross. So in short yardage, I've seen Brock Purdy likes to go to him because he's quite an athletic, really big guy. Once he's able to get off the end of the line, he's able to make things happen. Jeremy Ruckert, he's kind of okay at everything, but he's not been asked to do a lot because the offense at Ohio State has never revolved around tight ends. Doesn't really use tight ends that much. You don't get them big names there, so he's safe. But it's a safe class. If I was going to throw a late round on one of them, I'd probably throw it on Trey McBride because I think he could be a great number 2 to Hawkinson. And then later down the line, when you ask if we're going to re-sign him, hopefully he's able to take the mantle. Cole Turner does his good work in the red zone. Isaiah Likely, I think, could be a great receiving threat, but just don't ask him to do the heavy work on the end of the line. But he might be able to work on that if he's able to bulk up a little bit. I just don't think the frame's there right now.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Turner and Lightly. It's more of a luxury pick at the time. Like say you're picking them for receiving skills, and we've got one of the best receiving tight ends in the NFL already. That's what we need. We need a brute in there. So that's why I like McBride. I love his brutish way of blocking, and he can also be a receiving threat as well. He'd be good, but I don't know. Ash has asked you a question. So is this because you're not particularly high on this group of tight ends? He wants to know how you go about filling out the room behind Hawk next year, and obviously Wright, if he stays, Zylstra's unlikely to come back. I think they said his career's under threat now. So if you're not going to do it in the draft, how would you fill out that room behind Hawk for next season?
Undrafted. I'd bring in I'd stack some undrafted tight ends because I think a lot of them will end up going undrafted. Free agency, you've seen this year, look at like Dan Arnold, Hayden Hurst. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I'll spend a few million on the side playing a tight end. I'm not bringing, I think Brock Wright will probably still be here, but other than that, you kind of clean shop. So there's kind of guys you can get that are able to do a job blocking, but it won't be hard. Like I say, we've even used extra online this year. So tight end is definitely not high in the priority for Lions right now. It is a luxury position, as you say. The best tight ends. Like you could argue that we're wasting some of Hawkinson's years, but we're waiting to get to the point where we really need to elevate is that next level of the game. Just got to be patient. But he's able to take the next level. We just need someone complementary. Someone that's a bit better at blocking. He's the receiving threat. We've seen weaknesses in games blocking. You don't have to spend a lot of money to find a blocking tight end.
No, agreed. So hopefully that answers that there for you, Ash. Chrome's in the chat. Thanks for joining us this evening, Chrome. Really appreciate it. He says, keep an eye on Brock Bowers. Dude's a freak tight end. Yes, he is. Brock Bowers is going to be the next, probably TJ Hawkinson in a draft by the looks of him. I don't think he's declaring for another year or two yet, but he's a physical specimen. I think that's all you can say about Brock Bowers. We're going to be hearing first round chatter about him sooner rather than later, aren't we?
Yeah, he's only a freshman, so he can't even declare next year. He'd have to graduate the year after, so he's going to be a 2025 player. If you look at him right now, he's a first-round tight end pretty much already. He'll declare as a junior, I'm no doubt, but he's got a lot to learn, as we saw in one of the playoff games where the interception, where he gave up on a route because it kind of like there was some miscommunication. So there's teething issues with him, but as a receiving target, it looks phenomenal. And he needs to show me he can block, or at least be asked to block.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you say, he's a freshman, and for what he's showing at the minute, it's absolutely insane the level that he's playing at. So, yeah, fully agree with you, Chrome. He is going to be one to keep an eye on. So that's the tight end room done. So we're going to move on now to the offensive line, and possibly ramifications here for the Lions in the draft. Are we going to replace Big V? Are we just going to bring in some depth? But there's some really good guys in here, so I'm going to go through those. So we've got quite a few. So first up, we've got Spencer Burford from UTSA. Then you've got Daniel Falele from Minnesota. You've again got the pair from Central Michigan. Now, I mentioned these in a show a couple of weeks back. These are two guys you really have to keep your eye on. So you've got Luke Godecker. He's the right tackle at Central Michigan. And then you've got the big, ginormous, I think he's about 6'8", Bernard Raymond, the Austrian man mountain who plays on Central Michigan's left side. He's the left tackle there. I mean, these two are a freak pair. Godecker, when he grabs you, it's like a spider's web. You cannot get out of his grip whatsoever, and it's quite freaky to see how well he does in that aspect. And then Raymond, well, you've got to find airfare to fly around him to try and get to the quarterback. He's absolutely insane, but we'll talk about them a little bit more very shortly. These two really good guys. You've got Marquise Hayes from Oklahoma, Ed Ingram from LSU, Zion Johnson from Boston College. He was in my half-season mock draft. If you're going to go high on a guard, he's the guy to go for. Braxton Jones from Southern Utah, Darian Kennard from Kentucky. You've got Abram Lucas from Washington State, Max Mitchell from Louisiana, Dylan Parham from Memphis, Chris Paul from Tulsa, Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa, Jamari Sayer from Georgia, Justin Schaefer from Georgia, Lessiter Smith from Virginia Tech, Cole Strange from UT Chattanooga, Andrew Stuber from Michigan, Matt Waletsko from North Dakota, and finishing it off, Nick Zakel from Fordham. Obviously, a lot of names there for the offensive line. You need some depth, but who are you looking out of that very varied group of players there? Who's sort of piquing your interest, especially maybe in that sort of guard section for the Lions?
Oh, the one guy I'm looking at is Abraham Lucas. He was an All-American as a freshman in 2018. He made the Pac-12 South All-Team in 2019. He's just made the Pac-12 South second team again as a redshirt senior in 2020. He's 6'7", 315 pounds. He is an absolute mauler on that Washington State line. He has been blocking for Max Bargin now for a few years. He is someone that looks really solid, that could play a multitude of positions between tackle and guard. He is someone that fits in a quick time offense. So once you're able to maybe go no huddle, which the Lions in future want to, once we've got the quarterback on the timing side, so you'll be able to, I think, help out there, help set the edge for a running back there. But Washington State they were understaffed this year. They struggled, but he was someone that stood out. He's a really imposing guy. He's got okay balance. When he's that big at 6'7", he's got to stop people getting underneath him and winning the leverage battle. That's what he needs to work on. He needs to learn how to use his size, because when you're that big, it's not easy. People are able to sometimes beat you, but he's got good feet. Once his feet are set, he is able to anchor himself into the ground. He's got super long arms, so people can't just fly by him. He just needs to make sure he don't get a bit grabby. But I think he's someone that's going to be able to watch at next level. Probably going to get him in the next middle rounds, I think, once he learns how to use the tools he's got with. And he's a monster in the run game, like I say. So he's able to be a bit of a mauler once he's able to get his hands on someone, drive him to the next level. I think he could be an absolute animal on the other side of Sewell. I think them two working together, that Pac-12 thing, 6'6", 6'7", like that could be a really quite formidable working together as a tandem on one side if you moved him out to right guard.
Yeah, absolutely. You've had a good, you've been able to have a good scout of him over the years anyhow, but it's one of those questions, I suppose. Big V's played that well this year. You wonder whether that he needs to go and whether we need to reinvest another pick in there. But, I mean, for sure, we need some depth in there. And, on that right-hand side especially, so if you can plug in, that'd be absolutely great. But, just going through some of the other names that I've already mentioned, the Central Michigan pair, Bernard Raymond, I think he's going in the second round, something stupid like that now. these guys are both converted tight ends, I mentioned, but Godecker's the one at right tackle. They're, as I say, they're both converted tight ends. They're both really good with their blocking and their pass protection, especially the footage I've seen of them. They're really good, and he can transfer inside to guard. So if you're just wanting some depth at these positions and you don't want to spend the highest of picks, I think Godecker's the guy to go to. So if you get a chance to see him in there, that's sure. But the other one that really intrigues me, if you're going to be on the other side, is Spencer Burford. Now he's obviously he's the left tackle at UTSA. He's one of the reasons why Sincere McCormack has been able to run riot over the CUSA this year. I mean, he's just crazy athletic when it comes to getting off the line, getting up to the second level, creating those running lanes for him to go through. So, you know, he's 6'5", he's nearly 300 pounds. He's a big guy. And I think, again, you get sort of use at him of guard and tackle. So another prospect to look out for if you are looking for guys on your line. And Zion Johnson, you know, Boston College, they're famed for their offensive linemen. They produce NFL quality linemen very frequently. I mean, all these 5 that are there currently are all projected to go pretty much up there. Not all this year, but Zion Johnson, the guard, keep an eye on him. He's certainly one to go for. Is there anyone else on that list? I mean, there's a few FCS guys in there. I don't know if you would have had a chance to see them or not, but are there any other names you pen out for people who are looking for O-line reinforcements for the Lions?
Yeah, Matt Waletzko from North Dakota, one of the FCS guys. Now he's someone that is, again, he's nearly 6'7". He's huge, but he's got one of the widest stances on the list that I've read. He sets his feet really far apart and makes like a tree trunk base, which means he is pretty much, he's solid as a rock once he gets set because he's got such a big frame and he's able to use that center of gravity. But apparently he's pretty nasty in the run game. He is the one that will initiate contact. He will come forward very quickly. There's some quickness in the feet and hips. So once he gets set, he's able to explode out. You expect him to initiate the contact first and then able to drive forward. Got huge arms. He's got massive legs. He gets some proper drive. He can take one stride where some people take 2. So he's going to flip around the sides. There's none of these guys, like a lot of them, they've played tackle in the unit, but when they get to NFL, a lot of these move over to guard. A lot of them, because it's hard to find star tackles, but most of these will find some way to get them in a guard position. But if you get 2 guys with really wide stances, they're able to help set the edge on the outside and keep people from coming around the outside and push them around. So there's some really good names here.
Yeah, I agree. So, you know, we've highlighted a few for you there. So keep an eye out for them. You know, we've got some good prospects if you do want some on the offensive line at all. Chrome, going quickly back to tight ends, mentions that his brother's been saying for a long time that the Lions need another tight end, but they never get one. That is very true. We need a blocking tight end. I think that is no more apparent than against the Seahawks the other day. We had no tight ends left, specifically no blocking ones in the run game. Just went to absolute hell. We do need a guy who can get down and dirty in there, especially when Hockenson is not available because he's not going to play every single game. So yeah, we agree. We definitely do need another one. Okay, so that's the offense. Now we're going to move on to the defense, and we're going to start with the edge rushers. And there are, again, a few potential really good guys in here for this draft. A lot of the star edge rushers in the first round, none of them are going here. There's 1 or 2 who might be coming around the end, but a lot of these are your prospect guys going forward. So I'm going to start. So you got Amare Barno from Virginia Tech. You got Michael Clemens from Texas A&M. Arnold Ebikiti from Penn State. You got Kingsley Enagbare from South Carolina. You're going to hear about him in a minute. Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. Of course, you've heard about him. Ash, you know, our biggest fan, he's a Florida State fan. He mentions him every single day without fail, and I worry about his health if the Lions pass on him. But he's probably the highest ranked of all the guys who are going to be on show here. You've got Jesse Luketa from Penn State. You've got Boy Maffei from Minnesota. D'Angelo Malone from Western Kentucky. Jeremiah Moon from Florida. Azizi Otemewa from Minnesota. Dominique Robinson from Miami, Ohio. Mai Sanders from Cincinnati, Tyreek Smith from Ohio State, finishing off with Cameron Thomas from San Diego State. Now, There's only one guy we can really start with here out of respect for our listeners. Jermaine Johnson, Florida State, probably going to be the highest ranked out of all these guys in the draft, and maybe a perfect platform for him to shine while all the other top edge rushers take this one off.
Yeah, this is someone that's had a great story. Obviously, he had to drop down to the JUCO levels to get back to FSU. He was famously on Last Chance U. Had a really good showing out. He's had a great year this year on such a I suppose a weak defensive line on a bad FSU team that finished the year, tried to find some momentum for next year, but really struggled. He was their motor going. He never took players off, which is great to see. He was the leader on defense. Works really well inside. He is someone that has raw power and strength. He's got reasonable speed, but he doesn't want to fanny about going around the outside. He wants to go through the gap if he can. He wants to get the shortest A to B to the quarterback, which means he will split the tackle on the guard if needs be. He will line up, I imagine, probably want on a 3 front. He won't want to be too far outside, so I'd put him in a 3-4 as like a defensive end. But he's got good technique. He's got a really tall, stout frame, which I like about him. He's able to put like one hand down on the ground or two. He's able to get up quickly, and he's got a proper motor. Takes very few players off, and he's got that finishing ability. I've seen him so many times get in, and when the quarterback tries to scramble or they want to try get away, he secures the tackle, gets the sack. Great finishing ability. Once his arms wrap around, locks his fingers, he's got some strength there and bringing guys down. So he's a good finisher, and he's had a fantastic year. He really is probably at the end of the first round now, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the case for him. I mean, because of Ash, I've watched more and more tape on him, and he's just got something about him. He's got that X factor to him. He's just can do it all. He's really good against the run. He's good at getting to the quarterback. Certainly when you get into those picks, because we're going to have a few picks in that area where he's looking at going, you have to imagine that he is on the minds of our coaching staff. That's, if they're not going to go edge first up, but he's certainly in the picture there. But I mean, it's not just him. Outside of this, you've got some other really good guys in there. The one I want to focus on is Kingsley Enagbare for South Carolina. Now, I picked up on this guy a while ago, but I mean, he's had a really good college career. I mean, just this season alone, he's up at 43 tackles, 7 for a loss, 4.5 sacks, got a couple of passes defended, a fumble recovery, a forced fumble. Now, this guy, he's got, he plays in the SEC, and South Carolina are not the biggest fish in the pool there. They're up against some very tough opposition, but he has all SEC first team honors. I think he's got 7, second team honors as well. He's an all conference guy, and this guy loves going after quarterbacks and putting them under pressure. He just has a magnet which draws them in his direction. He's 6'4", he's 265 pounds. He's a big guy. It doesn't matter whether he's going around the edge, whether he's trying to shoot for the gap. He's had a great season, and just looking at his highlights, I get really excited when I look at him there. And, he's potentially going to be going a little bit further down the draft. So if you're going with some of your later, well, say it'll be your day 2 guys, probably for sure. But I really like this guy. I don't know if you've had much chance to see him, but he could potentially be one of the really, good sleeper guys here who people just aren't talking about enough.
Yeah, he's one of the guys as well that's best in coverage. I read that he works with defensive backs. He plays what's called the buck position. So he will stand up as a rusher, but he'll also put his hand down in the dirt. But you never know what you're going to do. He is one of those guys who will give quarterbacks the eye, and he will drop into coverage across the middle. So he's able to potentially pick up the likes of a tight end, or if a running back wants to come out on a flat. He's also got that side-to-side lateral speed where he's able to pursue, which most edges aren't able to do. Once the player gets outside of them or behind them, they aren't able to run it down. He has got massive speed. He's got a lot more weight he could gain. He's only like 260, 270 on a 6'4" frame. I don't want him to gain too much weight because I'd like him to still play that stand-up position at next level. He's able to get to the ball carrier as well as the quarterback. I think he's someone that he's got the body of work. He's got he's got years where he's had like 4.5, 6, 4 sacks. So he's able to generate some pressure season on season. He's got a relentless motor. I think he'll go somewhere in the maybe the early second, which I think would be good value for him if we don't actually go with the edges. If we, depending on where we pick, if we wait until later on.
Yeah, and it's the level of competition he's been up against as well. The SEC, you've got some good linemen who are in that division. So, you can't say that the level of competition has not been hard for him to get this. He's finished off with 24 tackles for loss and 15 sacks over his career. So he's had good success getting to the quarterbacks, and say very tough division as well. So, good for him. But outside of that, are there any other names who sort of spring to mind when you're looking? Who else should we be looking for really out of this group?
I don't think he'll go that high, but Myjai Sanders is the guy that stands out at Cincinnati. Now that's because he's 6'5", he's one of the tallest. He's only like 250 pounds. If you look at this kid, he looks like a bit of a beanpole. He looks a bit slender because he's got such a long frame. But the fact he closes down distance quicker than most other guys because he's got such a long stride. He's got really long legs. He covers ground quicker than most of these guys. He's also got some of the longest arms, which means when he wraps up guys, they stay wrapped up. He's one of the best guys that's able to tackle. Now, out of sheer frame and the length, so he does his best work going around the outside. He's able to swim guys. He's able to use motions. He's able to do all the handwork because he's got that nice slender frame. He's not the strongest. I won't have him bull rushing or trying to go through guards that set their feet because I just don't think he'll win. He's going to rely on some athleticism and technique. So he needs to get stronger. He definitely needs to put a bit of weight on, but he's certainly a project that may go second, third round. But he's someone that's got a bit of he's got raw athleticism, he's got talent. He just doesn't have the body of work. You don't have the stats really to back it up from the Bearcats.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of these other guys, I'm probably going to have to do a little more watching on these because I think we're presuming we're going to go after someone high here. Obviously, Carl Aftis is my guy on the edge, but yeah, there are some good fellas to watch out for on this group. Just before we move on, Ken Strouder was in the YouTube chat earlier. Thanks for joining us, Ken. Appreciate it. He just wants to quickly go back up to the guard situation. He says, "What's your opinion first on the guard from Chattanooga, Cole Strange, and then he also asks about the LSU guy." Oh God, where has he gone now? I have lost him. LSU, Chase and Hines. Any of those? Either watched really any of those? Seen Chattanooga? Chattanooga not very widely available to watch, say, on the TV over here. But I know Chase and Hines. Chase and Hines is decent.
Yeah, I've seen the LSU. They've got a strong offensive line, yeah. So that there's someone that could definitely be a good player.
Jason Hines, a run guy, I know that much. He's really good when he gets up to the second level, especially with linebackers. He's about 350 pounds, I think. He's a big, beefy boy, but he's really athletic and can get up to the second level quick. So certainly that. I'm not sure what he's like in pass protection, though, so I would have to check. But the Chattanooga one,
Cole Strange, I'd have to watch some games. I also could not tell you.
Yeah, sorry about that one, Ken. I apologise, but Chattanooga over here in the UK, probably not one of the most widely watch teams in the world. So we'll have a look for you though and get back to you. So we're going to move on now. So defensive line. Now, this is maybe a point of contention in the draft for the Lions defensive line. We've just spent 2 picks last year on guys there, but people may be saying we need more. So who have we got here? We have Zachary Carter from Florida, Neil Farrell Jr. from LSU. Yes, you can see who Ryan's back in there. Haskell Garrett from Ohio State, Logan Hall from Houston, Travis Jones from Connecticut, Fidarian Matisse from Alabama, Josh Pascal from Kentucky, John Ridgway from Arkansas, Perrion Winfrey from Oklahoma, Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. Now, probably out of all these groups, these are the ones I by far know the least about, but you've got your guy in here. I'll let you talk about him. Who should people be watching from the defensive line in the Senior Bowl?
Oh, it's definitely Zachary Carr. He has got some engine on him. For what you can call an interior defensive lineman, you could put this guy on an edge. Like, he's 6'4". He's got that 230 frame. So he's someone that is able to get to the quarterback when he's done with his actual inside job. This year, 11 tackles for loss for 52 yards. He's also got himself 8 sacks. So he's a finisher. Like, he works his way from inside to outside really well. He plays a multitude of positions on a defensive line there. You can put him on the outside, put one hand in the ground. If you want to put him over the nose tackle and ask him to try and win through the middle, or if he's on a double team with both hands on the ground. I think he's able to win at both positions. He's someone that is going to be moving all over that line at the pro level. He won't be stuck just as a defensive interior lineman. I think you'd put him on the edge in some positions. He has had a really good year. He's shone on a line that's really struggled, but he's really developed his game, finishing well. And he's a strapping young lad. Like I say, he's got a lot of potential at the next level, I believe. But it depends what kind of style you're going to run. It won't work in everyone's offense. It will vary if you can run a 4-3 or a 3-4. So it's going to be someone that's not for everybody. It depends how well he's used.
Oh, well, is there anyone else? Like I said, this defensive line class I'm not really too familiar with going for, but certainly Zachary Carter is the big one to look for from Florida for Ryan. Any others?
Devontae Wyatt, he's been really good at Georgia. He's a bit bigger. He's more of an anchor. So he's a bit more of a, what you'd call a bit more, I don't know if he'd transition to a nose tackle at the next level, but he's bulkier, he's beefier. So I'd like him more when I'm playing the run. I think he's a bit better at moving the interior of the line because he's got that frame, 143 kilos. So he's a big boy. So he's able to swallow up backs. He's able to hold his more line in the anchor. Only had 2.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles this year. But getting to the quarterback is not his job. He wears 95 for a reason. He's an interior defensive lineman. He's able to stop the run, which this Georgia defense has been one of the best in FBS history this year at stopping the run. And it all starts with him. You can put him either side of a nose tackle. He's able to take on 2 people at once if needs be. He's able to swallow up backs that come through the hole, plug his gap. And if the opportunity arises where QB rambles or scrolls out and he's able to get after him, he's got some finishing ability. And 2 forced fumbles, he's got a nose for the ball. When a back comes in, he will punch the ball. He will finish the play. And he looks like a good prospect coming in as a defensive tackle this year.
So there you have it. Those are the guys there for you to have a little watch at on the defensive line. I'm certainly going to have a look at a few of these guys because I really need to do my homework on those. Just quickly before we move on, Ash says Caleb Williams has officially entered the portal now. So that answers that question. It looks like he is off to pastures anew. I don't think it's going to take very long for him to get snapped up there. So interesting. Maybe the thing to Ole Miss has some legs. So we're going to move on now. So linebackers. Now, everybody knows that the Detroit Lions need a linebacker in this upcoming draft. And I would expect this to be one of the most watched groups in the Senior Bowl by anyone who's looking to upgrade that position big time. So who are we looking at for linebackers? So the group we've got Troy Anderson from Montana State, who will also be on show this coming Saturday, so you can get an early look at him. You've got Brian Asamoah from Oklahoma, Darian Beavers from Cincinnati, Terrell Bernard from Baylor, Damone Clark from LSU. I'm going to chat about him shortly. Aaron Hansford from Texas A&M, DeMarco Jackson, Appalachian State, Chad Muma from Wyoming, Mike Rose from Iowa State, Channing Tindall from Georgia, Key Walker from Georgia, but the guy, the main event, the attraction that we're all going to be talking about. He's from Utah. He's an absolute wrecking machine, and he's going very high in the first round of the draft. That is, of course, Devin Lloyd, who is going to be on full show. What a season. He has had 66 solo tackles, 45 assisted tackles. That's 111 total, 22 tackles for a loss. That's not in his college career. That is just this season. He has 43 in his college career, 7 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, so 4 interceptions, 2 return for touchdowns, 6 passes defended, 1 fumble recovery, 1 forced fumble. This is the complete and utter just all-round linebacker. He can get after the quarterback. He can get back in the field after the running backs. He's good in coverage. He can pick off passes. He can defend against the pass. This guy has just about everything you're looking for in a linebacker. And I mean, those 2 performances against Oregon towards the end of the season and in the championship game just furthered his stock for this season. He's going to go very high, and someone is going to be incredibly happy with him.
Yeah, he's going to be first or second off the board, without a shadow of a doubt. he has become such a leader on that Utah defense. He was a game changer in snuffing out run plays. Quarterbacks are always having to look where he is. You have to look that guy off if you're going to pass over the middle, because if he shows run and drops into coverage, he's got that long, slender frame that you look for. He's got a good nose for the ball. He's able to pick that ball off, and he's then got the speed. If he wants to, he can turn it into a pick six of instant. He's very hard to catch once he's at full speed. He's a phenomenal tackler. He has got really strong grip. He wraps people up well. There's all technique there. So once he comes through, he's able to get through that line. He pitches a tent in your backfield, multiple tackles for loss there. He's able to get after the quarterback. He has the pursuit speed. He's one of those guys that can transition between inside and outside linebacker. He can play a multitude of positions. If you want to put him on a passing down and try get him to rush the passer, he will not be easy to stop around the outside. He can get around the outside if he wants. I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. Everyone kind of wants him. It's going to be one of those positions where he's probably going to be 2 out of reach for Detroit. He's going to go after when we're first picking, and he will not be there by the time we get back. So he's going to be someone that is snapped up very quickly, and he could be the next. If you look at his play and how good he could be in all general areas, someone like a Darius Leonard, like a Fred Warner kind of guy, like that's what you want to expect to be from him. He's going to be a leader.
Absolutely. I mean, he's everything that Detroit needs right now. I think it's safe to say, just a guy who is great in coverage, get after the quarterback, provides that second level threat from the defense. I mean, God, I so badly want him, to the point if we had to trade far enough back to get him, I'd seriously consider it, even if we got a bit screwed out of value for the pick. That is how potentially good he is. So yeah, watch him. You'll love him straight away. Hopefully he has a really good game and really puts his name out there. I can see him going top 10 if he really tries hard and his pro days and his combine go really well. That's how good he can be. So outside of that, there's a few other good guys in here. So the other one I've been mainly taking a look at, Damone Clark from LSU. Now LSU have had a very disappointing year by their standards, fired the coach, getting a new guy in there, but he himself, he's had a really good year. So he's played in all 12 games, 77 solo tackles, 58 assisted. That's 135 all told. That LSU defense has been very busy this year. 15 tackles for a loss, which is more than 4 times better than what he's had in his previous seasons. 5.5 sacks, an interception, 3 passes defended, 1 fumble recovery, 2 forced fumbles. Again, a guy who sort of gets you in all facets of the game. He's 6'3", he's 250 pounds. This is a big, bulky boy who can do it all, and another who you could get a lot of value for if he slips a little bit later on in the draft.
Yeah, he's someone that does it all. LSU produce fantastic linebackers. They ask so much of him. High football IQ. He does as he's told. Like say, he's able to drop into coverage. He's able to tackle, come up, meet running backs in the hole. He's strong at defending the run when the gaps do appear in front of him. He is someone that has got a good future, say at next level. I'd say he's more pro ready than Jabril Cox was this time last year. He's someone that looks like he's got that finishing ability when he comes up. He hits like a truck when he needs to. When he comes downhill, I like his ability to come downhill quickly from his position, diagnose a player, and then meet the back where they need to be. And a lot of times he's going to win. He's a strong guy. He's a good finisher. I think he's going to be someone that could really learn the role, possibly take over or learn the get the green dot one day. He looks like a future play caller in the NFL.
Oh, Jabril Cox, you brought up a name there. That was painful to see him drop down the draft last year. There were just so many times you could have taken him. It was absolutely heartbreaking, but I agree. He's in that mold for sure, and he's not going to go that far down the draft. I really can't see that happening. So outside of Lloyd and Clark there, who else sort of comes to mind for you? Obviously, Georgia's defense this year has been amazing. They've got a couple of linebackers in here, but who else stands out for you as one that you want to see play well and who people should really take a look at?
Well, I've been watching a lot of the FCS, so Troy Anderson is one of the main reasons that they've actually got to the FCS championship. This guy is 6'3", 6'4", about 240, 250. He looks like an NFL linebacker. He has got a huge frame. He's so strong, but he often drops back into coverage. He is able to fake the run or come up and he's quickly dropping back. He's got 2 interceptions this year. He's taken one of them to the house. averages 20 yards, so he's able to deceive the quarterback. 137 tackles, 14 tackles for loss. He's also got 2 further sacks and a fumble recovery. He has a nose for the ball. He is a do-it-all, every kind of down back. He will never take a play off. He comes meet them in the hole. He hits like a truck because he's got that big, upright shoulders, comes up to the line quickly, does it everything. He's the leader of the entire defense. He's one of the main reasons they're there. Troy Anderson, he's someone that can be trusted to, I'd say, call plays at the next level. You can fully expect that at some point in the future, he's going to be trusted to be one of the guys that will relay information on the field because he's a leader among men. And he could go a lot later in the draft. This guy could be maybe the next kind of like, what's his name? It was at Boise State, at the Cowboys. Where's the neck roll?
Oh, Van Der Esch.
I look at him in the model of like Leighton Van Der Esch. He's got that long, big frame. He's athletic, able to drop into coverage. I think he could be a middle round kind of guy, but he's going to be someone like a Pete Werner, who's forced into that kind of position where he has to learn quickly. I expect him to sink and not swim. So depending on how well his national title game goes, that is the biggest stage he's going to play on this year. He could very well earn himself some serious draft stock against one of the best teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. I think he's got a lot of potential, like you say, later in the draft. And I mean, even outside of those, you've got some other good guys. You've got the Georgia pair, Channing Tindall, Kay Walker. Got to keep an eye out for those. Mike Rose has had a good year at Iowa State. He's got a load of tackles for loss last time I checked, even though they've had a bit of a rough season. So linebackers is some really intriguing ones in there. But yeah, you're tuning in for the Devin Lloyd show for that one, and hopefully he shows his full skill set there. So we're getting towards the end of it now. So we're moving on to the cornerbacks. Now, cornerbacks, one of the biggest argumentative areas for the Lions, I think, at the minute. I've seen people saying they want to take cornerbacks really early, really. I'm just like, I can't put myself through going for another top round cornerback again. I just can't do it. I think with so much young talent on there. But to be fair, this is potentially a really good cornerback class. There's some real good potential out there. And there's going to be some really good guys on show in this one. So the cornerback group here, you've got Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati. You've got Tariq Castro Fields, a hell of a prospect from Penn State. Caleb Evans from Missouri. Mario Goodrich from Clemson. Marcus Jones from Houston. Derian Kendrick from Georgia. Need say no more about him. He's also hella good. Damari Mattis from Pittsburgh. Zion McCullum from Sam Houston State. You'll have seen him in the FCS playoffs. Roger McCreary from Auburn. Another potentially good one there. Riley Moss from Iowa. So many good guys here. Alontae Taylor from Tennessee. Cam Taylor-Britt from Nebraska. Josh Thompson from Texas. Jalen Watson from Washington State. Joshua Williams from Fayetteville State. Good Lord, they must be in the FCS. And Tariq Woolen from UTSA. Obviously, there's so much talent in the cornerback class this year, and there's a lot on show here. I mean, out of all that, who's the first name you're zeroing in to watch?
For me, it'd be a Caleb Evans, the Missouri corner. He will be someone that needs to be watched like a hawk because 6'2", 200 pounds, but he's got arms that are nearly 33 inches in length. He has got maybe the best frame there for a cornerback at the next level. Like, he hangs his arms low. He has got the size that is needed to play at the next level. He is someone that is physically dominating at the line of scrimmage. He's got eye discipline as well. He never gets caught looking inside. He knows when to look back and when to look forward. He is primarily that strong press corner that you look back. Now that suits the Lions because we've known for years we want to play man coverage. We want to be a man coverage team. We want to line up on guys, and that starts by pressing them at the line of coverage. So stop people getting in behind us. So I think he's someone that could really transition well to the next level. He's not got tons of tackles. He's only got the odd interception. He's been a part player throughout his time at the Missouri Tigers, but that doesn't take away how much he has got to offer at the line of scrimmage at the next level. He is someone that can destroy a play before it's even started. If he can win that battle and stop them getting that clean break, that takes away the entire play. Quarterback looks away from him, so he doesn't get tons of targets, doesn't give up loads of yards. because they know he's able to do his job and hold his down this side of the field. So I'm hoping that he can have Jeff. It could be like a Jeff Okuda, a strong, long man cornerback that likes to play press at the line. I'd like to see another one of those. So he's someone that the Lions could take a good look at maybe in the middle rounds, because he's not got the huge stats and figures to back up his play.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think there's a lot of guys in here that we could maybe take a look at. I just, I look through these names and there's some really good ones there. Obviously, if you're looking for secondary guys this year, obviously there's Riley Moss down at Iowa. He's had a really good year. That Iowa defense, especially when it comes to turnovers,
he's had 4 picks.
They have been a turnover machine. Exactly. He's not got the most tackles in the woods. Only had 39 on the season, but he's got 3 for a loss. He can, when he needs to, come up and get into the backfield. He's got 4 interceptions, as you've mentioned there. 2 of them returned to the house, averaging about 22 yards of reception when he gets it. He's got 5 passes defended. He's got a fumble recovery. I mean, anyone really out of that Iowa defense, if they're there, you have to really have a look at them this year, because that defense has been hella good. But he himself, he's such a ball hawk. He's got to be under consideration. He
does, yeah. For someone that's undersized at he just cracks 5'10", 5'11", so he's not big, he's not particularly dominant, but he's raised in a defense that prides itself on sniffing out the ball. As you say, 2 out of 4 interceptions taken to the house. That was all before he got an injury as well. He barely played the last half of the season, so he did most of his work in the start of the season. When Iowa actually looked good, he was part of a solid defense. I took him in my mid-season draft because I'd seen how well he did in the first half. Really like the kid. I think he's someone that will work his ass off in special teams as well. Solid tackler, will get down the field. So he's going to be worth a punt in one of the later rounds with his being a bit undersized, but he could very well work himself out to be a possible turnover guy when he needed on their special, especially passing downs. He's going to be someone that is able to play cover deep third. He will be able to sniff out the ball and undercut routes.
Exactly. I think we're looking for guys who, especially really good in coverage this time. I mean, one of the main guys I'm looking at here, and I know he's probably in round 2 consideration at the minute, but Roger McCreary from Auburn. I mean, this guy is so good when it comes to his coverage. He's at 49 tackles for the season. He's got 2 for a loss. He's got a sack. So again, he has ability to come up and go after quarterbacks. He's got 2 interceptions, one which was returned to the house. But in terms of that, passes defended, he's had 14 passes defended. He's got a lot of pass breakups. He's so good in coverage. He's got a fumble recovery on there as well. And, if you're looking for a coverage guy, he's probably, if you're looking second round, he's probably one of the best you're going to be able to find there.
Yeah, Tariq Castro-Fields, he defended 7 passes this year as well. Like I say, he was targeted a lot of times, but he was managed to bat them away. So someone that didn't get an interception, he was able to defend his own when targeted. Big 6'2" guy, and we like big Penn State corners because we've already got one. So he could be someone that you want to pair with him. He's definitely got an upside.
Absolutely. So yeah, plenty of good options to keep an eye on at corner there, but they are some of the main ones. Right, we're going to get onto the safeties now, and that's it. Then we're going to move on because we've been on this a little while. So for the safeties, you've got Tyson Anderson from Toledo, Jaquan Brisker from Penn State. That's going to be a name you're going to hear a lot over the next 3 months in regards to the Lions. Brian Cook from Cincinnati, Yusuf Corker from Kentucky, Jojo DeMann from Nebraska, Leon O'Neal from Texas A&M, Jalen Petra from Baylor, and one of Ryan's sneaky good safeties lower down in the draft that he identified right at the start of the season, Sterling Weatherford from Miami, Ohio. Start with him. What's he had like this season? You picked him out pretty early in this season when we were looking at draft safeties for somebody. You mentioned his name. You were very high on him, and he's going to get a massive chance to impress here.
Yeah, for someone that plays in a small conference, like Miami High, I'm pretty sure in the MAC, so he don't get the national attention that you could say he deserves. But great year, 40 tackles, 4 passes, 2 interceptions. He's a do-it-all kind of guy. He's had a great season. General career, like I say, he got 200 tackles, 20 passes defended, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions. So as a career, 4 years. He's a leader. He's 6'3", He's a big guy, like I say. He's looking like the 100 kilos, like that, 190, 200 pounds. So there's a long frame there to work with. He's very experienced. He's played lots of games in his career when he's been available. I'm pretty sure at some point he's been a captain as well. So he's someone that's very active in that. And he's able to play free safety instead of strong safety. If you wanted to put him in Ireland and leave him on his own, I'm pretty sure he'd be fine doing that because he's taken responsibility for when he's been needed to on a struggling Miami Heat team for the last few years. They've not been great, but he's able to be in standout, and he managed to get himself to invited to Senior Bowl of his career. But this is a good set of safeties. There's some nice names on here.
Oh, absolutely. And as I mentioned when I was going through them there, I think the one that specifically I've seen most when it comes to mock draft season and whatnot so far, and we're going back to them again, it's Penn State, Shaquan Brisker. People are looking at him maybe at the end of the first, even trying to get him into this side. So, I mean, he's had 63 tackles on the year, 3 for a loss, 2 interceptions, 7 passes defended. We know that Penn State make good defenders for the NFL, and he certainly looks like he's on that crop that are absolutely miles behind Kyle Hamilton, but they're still incredibly good players. What are your thoughts on him? I mean, obviously we're going to look to see how well he does, but you know, a potential future Lion there for sure.
Oh yeah, hits like a truck. He comes from the safety position like an absolute train. Looks like Tracy Walker when he tackles. He covers the ground, helping support the box very quickly. He's someone that's super athletic. He's got a good frame. He's had injuries. That's the only issue with him. People say he's been injury prone in his career, maybe because of his, I don't know, not always poor tackling, but technique. Puts himself at risk sometimes when he comes in like a missile, but he is going to be one of the guys that stands out. You know, when you hear him hit, it will reverberate around the stadium, comes like a train. So he's going to be someone that wants to put his name out there quickly. He's going to target someone and he's going to come down. He's going to make sure they know that he was there. He's someone that's got that lion mentality, I'd like to think. I think Dan Campbell would love someone like Brisker.
Oh, absolutely. You know, if I wasn't so high on Kyle Hamilton myself, I think he'd probably be the guy I'd be looking towards next there on this list. But yeah, like I say, he's got the Dan Campbell mentality, and you will see that. Watch this game, and like as Ryan said, he hits like a truck. The guy who hits the hardest is likely going to be him, so it'll not be hard to find him on there. I mean, still, there's some great names on there. I think the one that intrigues me most is Jalen Petra. Hey, oh, Jojo Demand's on there.
He's a 5-year linebacker. He is not a safety, but they're asking him to play safety. 44 tackles this year, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. That's the only year he's ever had an interception. So they're asking him because he's smaller to play safety. So this guy actually could be really interesting. But Peter, as you mentioned, 6'2" in it. He is an absolute animal. In that game against Oklahoma State, oh my God, when he destroyed that receiver.
I really like the look of Jalen Petra. He's had another good year. He's had 75 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions, 7 passes defended. That Baylor defense has been legit pretty damn good this year, and he's in that secondary has been one of the reasons why. I love to see him on show like this. Like say, I can't remember the poor kid's name, but he mauled one of the, oh God, who was it now? I can't remember. It was a hell of a tackle. I'm going to go back and watch that, but it was a hell of a tackle. But they say these safeties are potentially one of the most fun groups to watch in this lot.
Yeah, they're a good set. Like I say, Petra, he comes up to line like he looks like Budda Baker. He's like a missile, but he's able to drop into coverage like someone like Diggs or Jamal Adams. He's going to be a hybrid. You're going to see him playing some linebacker at next level, I'm sure. He is going to play a multitude of positions because he's got that versatility. Then you've got Brian Cook, back end of the Cincy team that's done well. Leon O'Neal, it's a great group. Is this the only one I don't know anyone is? I don't know Tyson Anderson, so I don't know who that kid is.
No, that's going to have to be one to watch out for. But the rest of them, like say, a hell of a lot of potential in there, and potentially some future lines in that group as well. So keep a close eye on them. Ash and Cromer in the chat. Ash says, what would happen if we got Kyle Hamilton, Devin Lloyd, and Jermaine Johnson in the draft? I'd take my shirt off and go running up the street celebrating. If we somehow got those 3, good God, our defense will be good with the addition of those. He also said he's seen Roger McCreary getting drafted in the 1st round. I don't see that happening. I really don't see
No,
that
I don't
happening.
have him. I don't have him up there with my top cornerbacks.
He's in that middling group for me. I think I had him just below Mikael Wright, but Mikael Wright seems to have disappeared off the map. I don't know what's gone on with him, but I would be surprised if he went in the first day. And then to finish off the teams for the Senior Bowl, we've got the specialists, and I'm not going to lie, I don't know a great deal about these. So the long snapper, you've got Cal Adornitis, or is it Adomitis? Adomitis from Pittsburgh, and you've got Jordan Silver from Arkansas. Place kickers, you've got Jake Kamada from Georgia and Jordan Stout from Penn State. And kicker, you've got Andrew Mevis from Iowa State. He's not been on any kicking list I've had for the draft this year. Any thoughts on those guys?
I don't know any of them are, but if I went on Google, I can guarantee at least one of them is probably from Australia.
Yeah.
They love their specialists, Australians.
Well, it's all to do with Aussie rules football, isn't it? It gives them sort of they've got really strong legs and can absolutely thwack the ball for miles. I'm not going to talk about Australian guys because I'm still absolutely gutted that we had to get rid of Aaron Sipos last year. I'm still distraught we had to get rid of him, but Jack Fox is a hell of a player, and there's absolutely no way he was going to be beating him out, but it upset me all the same. So yeah, those are the Senior Bowl sides, and hopefully, we've been able to point out a few guys for you to take a little look at, but certainly do get a chance to watch it. It's the first step on the road to the draft and the first real look you get at some of these guys going forward. So it's going to be really interesting to see for sure. Okay, so we're all done with that. So we'll move on to our bowl pick watch now. And obviously, me and Ryan were engaged in a little bit of a bet to see who could guess the outcome of most of these bowl games. Now, I just want to say outright, this is 100% luck for some of these because so many guys declare for the draft and don't want to play, or there's injuries. Some of these full strength teams aren't playing. I know of at least 3 teams that have been playing receivers at quarterback, including LSU last night. So it's very hard to say much has gone on with these, but we can still review the games anyhow. I think last time we were here, we had made it up to the Camellia Bowl, which was on Christmas Day, which Georgia State won against Ball State. I was winning 8-7 at this point, but the very first game after that, on the 27th, was the Quick Lane Bowl, and that was Western Michigan against Nevada. Western Michigan were favored by 5.5 points in this game. I took Nevada, despite the fact I knew they were without Dowd, Cole, and Strong, because I thought they'd be able to put up at least a fight in this one. Well, they didn't. Western Michigan blew the top off of this game, and I remember sitting there watching this in absolute horror, going, "Oh, great, that's my lead gone in the pick watch." They won 52 points to 24. Now, obviously, it's Michigan, so home field. They're part of the home state. We've got to be really happy for them there. I mean, good God, this wasn't even a contest, this one.
No, it really wasn't. It makes you worry about the future of Nevada football. I don't know what's going to happen next year because they've got a new coach. But Western Michigan, like I said, we saw Caleb Ellaby declare for the draft today. He is a really good quarterback. He's strong in the pocket. He's able to move, especially in the red zone. He's got 13 rushing touchdowns in his career. Had a great year. Nearly 3,300 passing yards. He was very efficient on the day. They got the ball, and when they got the ball, they scored quickly, and they took it back. And like I said, they controlled the clock, line of scrimmage, everything, and they dominated most phases. Nevada were just never in this game, even from the start.
Yeah, no, we got asked about Ellaby the other day, didn't we, as a potential? I think it was on the pod? We got asked about him as a potential later round draft for quarterback. I mean, he is a very tempting prospect if you're going to go there, isn't
He is, yeah. I don't know if you can justify. I don't know if he'll get drafted or not, but he's a project. There's something there. Like, he could be a great backup. He's got potential there to learn for a year or two. But say he's got good size, he's got a decent arm. I think he's someone that you could get in there. If you could get him in the later rounds, there's something there to work with.
Absolutely. I hate to have to do this to you, Rye, but Ash, when you said if you're going to Google all these special teamers, one of them would be Aussie, he, of course, accepted that challenge. He says none of them are Aussies. So Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Thanks, Ash. Appreciate it. Oh dear. Right. So yeah, that was the quick lane bowl. Then we came to the first of quite a few cancellations. The military bowl was meant to be fought between Boston College and East Carolina. That did not happen, so the scoreboard did not change there. On the 28th next, it was the Birmingham Bowl that was fought between Houston and Auburn. Absolutely, there was no chance either me and Ryan were going near Auburn for this one, but this was a lot closer than I expected it to be. Auburn were favourites by 3 points, but neither of us bought into it. Houston did win. They won 17-13. And in fairness,
Awful. It was an awful game.
It was, wasn't it? I'm not really going to give too much to this, but Houston won. We both won. It goes to 9-9. Is there anything remarkable about the game whatsoever, or should we just forget that it ever existed?
Nathaniel Dell, he is a wide receiver to watch next year. At one point, he had 2 receptions for 150 yards. He was basically the entire Houston offense, and he has been all year. I like the look of that kid.
I agree there. I think he's going to do really well, and I think Clayton Tune is staying there, isn't he? So he's going to
I think he's returning.
He's going to have his quarterback to throw at him as well. So that's certainly going to be one of the partnerships to keep an eye out for. But yeah, Houston Auburn, we're going to forget about that because it was a dumpster fire. What was not, however, was our next one. We both called this. We were both really proud that we called this. It was the first responder bowl between Air Force and Louisville. Louisville were favored by 1.5 points. Malik Cunningham was playing. He didn't drop out of this one, but we both said no. The triple head, the triple option Air Force, we thought they were just going to run through Louisville because they wouldn't be physically strong enough to match up with them. We both guessed Air Force, and we were both correct. Air Force did win this one. They won 31 points to 28, in which was quite an intriguing game, although most of the points were scored in the second quarter. But I mean, Air Force, they did really well in this one. And weirdly enough, they passed most of their things. Zeke Daniels, their quarterback, he was 9 of 10 for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. We said the Louisville defense was bad, but when a service team's putting 250 yards on you on just 9 pass attempts, that's really bad. And he also got 2 rushing touchdowns. So what a day for Zeke Daniels. Malik Cunningham did all right. He got 207 yards and a touchdown. He rushed for 63 yards and a touchdown, but I'm quite proud of this one. We said that the rough and tumble style of Air Force would be too much for Louisville. We were correct, but it was a fairly good game.
Air Force are becoming the premier military service academy because they've learned how to pass the ball. Zeke Lewis had one of the most efficient quarterback performances I've ever seen. At one point, it was at 90% passing, and that was from a triple option offense. And it was every time that they got comfortable, Louisville stacked the box. They had a receiver, I can't remember his name, I think it was something Lewis. He just kept catching out the cornerbacks. He was too fast. They could not catch him running those crossing routes through the middle. And the quarterback just was accurate on the day. They got the balance just right. In the end, they managed to hang on. That the performance was a lot more comfortable than the score actually tells you. They were pretty dominant on the day.
Yeah, I know Louisville did sort of rally a bit in the second, but you never felt that they were going to be able to truly get back into it. So, that was a really good prediction on our end. We got that right. We went to 10 apiece. However, we're going from the good to going to the really bad. Next, we had Mississippi State and Texas Tech fighting out the Liberty Bowl. Mississippi State were 9-point favorites for this one. And me and Ryan both very gullibly went for the favorites. And Texas Tech blew them out 34 points to 7 with a 27-point margin of victory after being 9-point underdogs. And Will Rogers did play in this one, believe it or not. It's not like Mississippi State were missing him. But Texas Tech, I mean, they just had a really good day, both sides of the ball. Donovan Smith went 252 and a touchdown, their quarterback. They rushed the ball really well. Taj Brooks, 107 yards and a touchdown. Roderick Thompson, 80 yards and a touchdown. They just did really well on both sides of the ball, and they got a whole bunch of sacks on Will Rogers. Yeah, Will Rogers as well. On his side, he went 32 of 53 for 290, a touchdown and an interception. Not the best day for him. Running game was really not there. God, yeah, I didn't really see this one happening, but, that is the beauty of bowl season. You sometimes get these completely left-sided results that come out of nowhere.
No, because by Texas Tech standards this year, they were poor. They were 1 week they were good, next week they were terrible. I saw their quarterbacks this year. I think Tyler Shook and Henry Colomba. So I didn't know who this quarterback was, and they were not good. But Will Rogers, this is what happens when an O-line is dominated in an air raid offense. He had no outlet. There was no run game. There was nowhere for him to go. He is a good quarterback, but he can't do it on his own. The defense got absolutely gashed by a ball. I watched it. They could not stop the run any given day of the week. They were getting gashed and they were getting tired. They were on the field the entire game. And in the end, they got absolutely blown out. What a huge upset that was.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone saw that coming. And like I say, we both guessed that wrong. So we stayed at 10-10 when it came to the guessing. Holiday Bowl was cancelled. That was UCLA and NC State. That was a shame because that was one of the bowl games I was looking forward to seeing the most.
UCLA.
Yes, UCLA, naughty, naughty boys. They're going on trips they shouldn't be, etc., etc. It was not gone down well, and you deprived us of a game. I think North Carolina State had flown all the way out there or something, poor buggers, and then they had to turn around and go home. That is not a trip that you make lightly, and we were robbed of a good game. So yeah, no Holiday Bowl. Next one was the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. That was between West Virginia and Minnesota. Me and Ryan varied on this. He went for West Virginia. I went for Minnesota. They were 3.5-point favorites. And Minnesota came on top in a very, a very low scoring game. It finished 18-6. The moral of this one, Minnesota just absolutely ran the ball down their throats. Kai Thomas, 144 yards and a touchdown. Marquise Irving, 129 yards, no touchdown, but nearly 270 yards on the day. Tanner Morgan didn't do much, 109 yards and an interception. But on West Virginia's side, it was just ugly. Jarrett Doig, he had 140 yards and an interception. And the running game, they really nothing there. But Minnesota, despite all their troubles at running back, they're still finding guys who are giving them 100-yard games. Props to them for doing that.
That's probably why PJ Fleck has just got that huge extension. He manages to get winning results and turn around what was a terrible year. That first half of the year then were really bad, but down the stretch they won out games and they finished really respectably. Tanner Morgan, God, he sucks, doesn't he? He is not a good quarterback. He has really struggled for the last year or two now. They need to find a replacement because he just cannot be trusted. So when I saw all the injuries to Tanner Morgan, I thought West Virginia had a chance because West Virginia towards the stretch of the year looked good, but no, they just didn't bother turning up in the biggest game of the bowl season.
Yep, absolutely. Very poor performance from them. Didn't show. And Minnesota, yep, they ended up their season pretty well. Like you say, good second half of the season. Bowl win. They'll look to make big strides, especially in that division in the Big Ten, because it wasn't the best last year, and it's there to be taken by the scruff of the neck. The Fenway Bowl next day, that was cancelled. That was meant to be SMU and Virginia, another decent one that was supposed to go ahead. So nothing went there. Obviously, after the Minnesota game, I was winning 11-10 by this point. The next one, this wasn't even close. The Pinstripe Bowl took place between Maryland and Virginia Tech. Now, speaking of teams that need a quarterback, something chronic, that can't apply any more so than to Virginia Tech. Braxton Burmeister is in the transfer portal. And boy, oh boy, did they not do well in his absence, although I'm not sure what he could have done to affect this game. Maryland were 1-point favorites. Well, that was low because they ended up winning by 44 points. They won 54 points to 10. They just absolutely laid a whooping on Virginia Tech, who, after a really good start to the season, ended it in quite disarray, let's just say. Connor Blumrick, 110 yards, did nothing. Taj Bullock, 27 yards at quarterback. There was nothing going there. The running game was averaging less than 4 yards a carry. Connor Blumrick got the only touchdown for them. The quarterback, he got a quarterback sneak in for a touchdown. But outside of that, absolutely nothing going for them. Maryland, they just had scores all over the show. But Taulia had himself a day. Taulia Tungvailoa, he got 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a little bit as well. This was a hell of a blowout. And Virginia Tech, good God, been a bad end to the season for them.
A worry in 2022 as well. They're a mess. Head coach Justin Fuente is gone. Got no quarterback. They've not recruited well. I haven't seen them. I know they've lost quite a few players, when that head coach left, a lot of the players entered the portal. They've not managed to pick many up, I don't think, out of the portal. So I don't think they're going to be great next year either, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, looks like they're going to struggle big time, but there's absolutely really nothing positive for them at that one. They'll just be glad the season is over. We both picked Maryland for that, so it was 12-11 after that one. And we also jointly picked the winner of the Cheez-It Bowl, and I'm weirdly obsessed with that advert. It's quite good, the Cheez-It one. Clemson and Iowa State. Iowa State were favourites for this one, which we both knew was a fraudulent line. Clemson won this one 20-13. It wasn't the best day in the world. DJ Uiagalelei still can't get much going. He threw 21 of 32 for 187 yards and an interception. Will Shipley got himself a touchdown and 61 yards. He's had a great season since he came back from injury. But Iowa State, without their premier running back, Breece Hall, not a lot went going in their running game. Brock Purdy, 204 yards, a touchdown, an interception. Charlie Kohler, we were talking about him earlier, tight end at the Senior Bowl. He got a touchdown on the day. It's a pretty decent one in fairness, but this was just sort of a very tough hitting game, but not with much points scored. And DJ, he's just had a rotten year, which he needs to forget about really quickly.
This sums up Clemson's year, doesn't it? Like, they don't score many points, but they just don't concede many. That defense, again, I'm pretty sure Skupski and that, they had a great game. They were really good in defense. The offensive coordinator or even quarterback, something's got to budge next year at Clemson because it's just not working. And Iowa State, I said it pretty much before the season, they suck. Brock Purdy's not a good quarterback. If they'd have not had Breece Hall this year, I don't know how many games they'd have won, if they'd have won any at all. He pretty much carried the entire year. The moment we knew he was going to sit this game out, everyone just shoved the money on Clemson. Like, it's Clemson's game to lose. Like, and it played out that way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't the prettiest one to watch, but I don't really think we were expecting it to be the prettiest one to watch either. But the main thing is we did guess it correctly. Actually, it's Clemson are the Wolverhampton Wanderers of the FBS. I don't know. I like Wolves, but they've never really had the titles that Clemson have had. Guess maybe now, but oh, he'll not like Wolves, will he? Because he's a Villa fan. So
no,
that'll just completely go over the heads of all our American listeners. But
I suppose Clemson or Arsenal, like, they've got all that history behind them. They've had all those great sides and the teams, but they've fallen on hard times.
Yeah, although they're going to have to go some length of time to replicate the lack of success in Arsenal's success in the Premier League. It's going to take some time. So yeah, after that, 13-12 to myself. Then we started differing on all the results again, pretty much. The Alamo Bowl. Now, I was worried about this one. I made an outside pick and I got it wrong. Oregon versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma were 4.5-point favorites. Ryan went with Oklahoma. I went with Oregon, and yeah, I shouldn't have. Oklahoma dropped nearly 50 on Oregon. It ended up being 47-32. A very good day as far as things went for them. Caleb Williams, he now in the transfer portal, 242 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kennedy Brooks had a game and a half, 14 carries, 142 yards, just the odd 10 yards per carry. He got 3 touchdowns. Eric Gray got 8 for 82 as he was also going at 10 yards per carry. Oregon just decided that run defense wasn't their thing that day and just let things in all over the place. Anthony Brown did all right, 306 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Quarterback for Oregon, Travis Dye, had 153 yards and a touchdown. Then the receivers filled their boots a bit, but Oregon's defense has sort of let them down in this one. It was a fun game to watch, though, in fairness. I'll give them that, but Oklahoma dominated them in the second quarter. I think they put up nearly 30 points on them, and it was over pretty quick, but it's good to see some garbage time come back.
Yeah, the game was over by halftime. Oregon were licking their wounds. Oregon will, I'm sure, say it was down to losing, I think, Michael Wright, Verone McKinley, Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think any of them played. I think pretty much everyone sat out. That defense got absolutely destroyed by the run. So they'll put it down to that as playing a key part of it. They were just gashed all over the field. They didn't have enough of the ball. There was a time of possession, like I say, it was fairly even, but they just weren't clinical enough when they had it, unfortunately. And it kind of just proves, like I say, even when he puts up like 300 plus yards, Anthony Brown, I just don't think he's the guy. He's not the guy. He ain't going to get it done when he comes up against teams not in the Pac-12. So there's a lot of work to do there for Dan Lanning next year.
Oh God, definitely for sure. I know they've still won the Pac-12 this year. Well, no, they lost it to Utah, didn't they? Like you say, a lot of work to be done, and there are a lot of teams who are going to start catching up with them real quick. So, yeah, unfortunately for me, that meant that the scores leveled up again. I think we're 13-13 at this point. Well, we both got the next one hugely wrong. The Mayo Bowl. Everyone loves the Mayo Bowl because the coach gets, what was it, 4.5 gallons of mayo poured over him or something like that. The winning coach. This was between UNC and South Carolina, a Carolina derby, if you will. UNC were favored in this by 9 points, and they were led by Sam Howell. We both went with UNC. We both thought South Carolina didn't have a cat in hell's chance. Well, what do we know? They won 38 points to 21. They sort of killed them with the run in this one. Dakarian Joyner, the lead quarterback for South Carolina, he got 160 yards and a touchdown. Zeb Noland, the assistant coach, who is still going, he's still not back on the staff. He's still playing. He got 82 yards and a touchdown. Kevin Harris, 182 yards and a touchdown rushing. Joyner got 64. Juju McDowell got 52 because UNC just really couldn't stop their running game. And Jaheim Bell in the receiving game, he had 159 yards on just 5 receptions and about 32 yards per reception and 2 touchdowns. What a day for him. On UNC side, it was sort of the struggle for Howell. He just didn't get a lot of protection. He got 205 yards and a touchdown. British Brooks got 72 yards and a touchdown in the rushing game, but not a lot going in the receiving game. Josh Downs got 62 yards. He's had a great season and he's going to be a threat for them going down the way. But yeah, UNC just couldn't defend the run in this one and ended up getting beaten really convincingly. They really did not see this one coming. But I mean, you know, all power to South Carolina. They've got their brand flashy new quarterback coming in Spencer Rattler next year and a hell of a bowl win to kick it off with.
Yeah, the Shane Beamer and South Carolina, they're going to be a team to watch next year. They could be a team that could get 8-9 wins easily. They're going to be dangerous. I feel they were really good. And what was funny about Jaheim Bell is he wasn't even a wide receiver. He's a tight end, I think. And he got decimated off the end of the line. He was lining up in the slot and on the end of the line as a tight end. And he still managed to get like 140 yards receiving. They just had no answer in UMC. I saw their secondary got gashed. Cameron Kelly, let's say there was multiple pass interferences. They could just not. They were too grabby. There was too many flags. Ty Chandler never got going. He never got any of the ball. UNC never even tried to establish the run. And when you rely on another offensive line where Sam Howell, I think, picked up a bit of a knock again at one point, like I say, he looked shaken up at times because he was getting hit again. Managed to get some garbage time, some cheap throws off to Josh Downs, who did what he did and made people miss. But no, it was ugly from UNC for most of the day.
Absolutely. You know, they've really got to retool up for next year now because they're going to have to replace Sam Howell for one, and that's going to be a huge loss for them. Right, where we've been going for a while. So we'll get through these last ones. So next up, we ended up 13-13 after that one. Then we got the Music City Bowl, Tennessee versus Purdue. Tennessee were 4.5-point favorites for this one. But me and Ryan actually both ended up taking Purdue because we like the way they've played this season. And in Aiden O'Connell, they've had one of the standout guys who's really improved this year. And boy, oh boy, did he have a day. Purdue sneaked this one. And I mean sneaked because it had to go to overtime. And it took a field goal to separate them. It ended up in Purdue 48, Tennessee 45 in what was a hella high-scoring game. Aiden O'Connell, 26 completed passes for 534 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The running game just kind of didn't happen because he was passing it all the time. They got about 100 yards between a few guys, but you know, with no standout receiver there, no David Bell, you wondered how they were going to react to that, but they ended up doing pretty fine. Brock Thompson, 7 receptions, 217 yards, 31 yards of reception and 2 touchdowns. Payne Durham got 5 for 85, 2 touchdowns. Jackson Anthrop, 5 for 74. TJ Sheffield, 3 for 61, 1 touchdown. Now, they didn't miss David Bell one bit. On Tennessee's side, Hendon Hooker, bless him, couldn't really do much about this. 378 yards, 5 touchdowns thrown. Really good game for him. Jabari Small rushed for 180 yards and a touchdown, about 7 yards a carry. He had a great game. Cedric Tillman, 7 for 150 yards, 3 touchdowns receiving. Velus Jones, he's going to the Senior Bowl. He had 10 for 85 and a touchdown. So a very offensively minded game here, although the Tennessee defense did have some success. They picked off O'Connell 3 times, but this was just a really fun watch. This one was, and I'm really glad Purdue were able to overcome the 5-point deficit and win this.
Oh, I watched the whole thing. It was crazy. Anyone that's listening, go watch the TJ Sheffield touchdown. It's one of the best throws I've ever seen into the corner of an end zone. I don't know how he brought it in. He got hurt. He left the game after it. He almost crumpled his leg, but it's a ridiculous catch, how he keeps possession. Really good. This game was ridiculous. Hendon Hooker, he did not put a foot wrong all game. Aidan O'Connell was so sloppy. Like, the interceptions were poor, but he managed to somehow power it back because Tennessee just did not capitalize on them. Tyler Morin, tight end, he had a huge grab where he laid out for it. Go look at that too. Phenomenal catch. I'm pretty sure the refs had a big say in this one. There was a lot of very dubious calls and flags and penalties, how it even got to overtime. So a lot of the Tennessee fans felt like this one was a bit robbed, how it even got there. There was some contentious flags, but I'm happy for Jeff Brown. Like, what a great year they've had, the Purdue. Like, they've had some huge ranked wins. And then to take down Tennessee as an underdog, win the ball, what a great for next year. And I think Aidan O'Connell will be there back again. He's had just such a great year. And it's gone so under the radar. Like, no one's talked about him. So Purdue could be set up nicely again for next year. Didn't need David Bell. And they put on a show, and probably the best game of the entire bowl season, because it was chaos.
Yeah, and we love chaos in the college game because it just results in so many points and it's just so fun to watch. We both guessed Purdue, 14 all after that. That was good. Next, the Peach Bowl, and speaking of ending on a good year, I know they just disappointed in the last few games, but Michigan State, they were 1.5-point favorites against Pittsburgh. Ryan went with Pittsburgh, I went with Michigan State, and the home state team won. Michigan State won this 31-21, rounding off a pretty good year for them, all things told. Obviously, no Kenneth Walker, and in his absence, the run game just did not exist one bit. But it didn't matter because Peyton Thorne, he's proven himself to be quite a decent quarterback, and his 2 big receivers came up for him. Peyton Thorne threw for 354 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. His 2 big receivers, Jalen Naylor, who is going to the draft. One of them hasn't. Jalen Naylor's going to the draft.
Yeah.
6 receptions, 108 yards. Jaden Reed, who is going back there next season, 6 receptions, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. They stood up when they needed to, and they got a hell of a lot of sacks as well. I feel like it was 5 or 6 at least. They really were able to get over Pittsburgh's quarterback, Davis Bevel. Obviously, no Kenny Pickett. They really suffered from that. They didn't really get much going on offense at all. Davis Bevel, 149 yards, a touchdown and interception. The rush game, they got about 100 yards between 5 guys, but it was very tough going for the most part. Jordan Addison, he finished off his wonderful season. 7 receptions, 114 yards. He got 114 of the 149 receiving yards that day. That just tells you his value to that side. And, been a good season for Michigan State. They ended with a bowl win. I know they would rather have got to the playoffs, but they can't moan. It's been a good season for Mel Tucker and them, and they just need to build on it now. And they need to find a running back for next year because that won't hold.
No, this was a disappointing game. Like, Pittsburgh need to find a quarterback, because that Bevel guy, he's not it, because he was flustered the entire day. He was rushed every time he wanted to try to get anything done. He's lucky he's got Jordan Addison, who was the most outstanding receiver this year, because he's a walking, talking highlight reel. That's the only offense he managed to generate, apart from a run game that ticked along. I knew Pickett wouldn't be there, but I thought the defense would have been able to hold up with no Walker, but they were shredded through the air. Like I say, you've got Jaden Reed, you've got Jalen Naylor, like they're 2 guys that can take the top off. So it was a tough day all around. Like I said, I shouldn't have picked Pittsburgh, but I thought they could have put up a better fight on the end, but in the end, the defense crumbled and they just had very little answer on offense throughout the day.
To be honest, I think there are several that we shouldn't have picked on both sides. I know I made some bad choices with mine, but yeah, well done, Michigan State. Good season for you. Las Vegas Bowl next. Arizona State, Wisconsin. Wisconsin were 7-point favorites for this. Ryan had absolutely no faith in his own team whatsoever. And would you know it, the spread hit evenly. Wisconsin won by 7 points, 20-13. We both guessed that, 16-15 to me. Braylon Allen had himself a field day, and Jaden Daniels wanted to throw picks and not touchdowns again. Is there what you want to say about this one, or shall we just scoot over it?
No.
Okay, there you have it. The most in-depth detail on Arizona State games from the Arizona State fan. All right, the next few got cancelled. So the Gator Bowl was next. That was Wake Forest and Texas A&M. Another big one we were robbed of. However, they did get another bowl game rearranged. However, it was against Rutgers. And Rutgers, yeah, the laugh there says it all. It was against Rutgers. You're putting Wake Forest against Rutgers. And I believe it finished, I didn't even put it down here, but I think it was 38-10, was it? I think pretty much just how we expected it to go. In fact, to be honest, I'm surprised Wake Forest scored so little.
I did watch it. And do you know what? I'm not actually laughing at Rutgers because they turned up when no one wanted to play them. Like, they didn't have to take that game. They took it. They did play 5 quarterbacks because they thought they'd be clever. They were putting out trick players. They had no rhythm. That was not a good idea, and it was not a good game plan. Sam Hartman killed them. Christian Beale played his final game and ticked over nicely, but no, they did not have a good day. They could generate absolute no offense because they were changing between 4 quarterbacks nearly every other player. It just did not work. But total credit to them. Ballsy decision to step up and fly over. They had a punter from Australia that flew all the way to Melbourne after the season ended because they weren't going to a bowl game. I believe they asked him to fly all the way back, and he set the record for 123 straight punts without a touchback. He set a new record, so at least something went right for the Scarlet Knights. But kudos for turning up and playing the game when Wake Forest needed an opponent. Like, there was total respect between them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I made fun of them this year. They've not been the best team, but yeah, like you say, they showed up. They played as best they could, and you know, at least we got a game out of it. So that was good for them. Next 2 games got cancelled. Sun Bowl, Washington State, Miami, Florida, Central Michigan, Boise State, both got cancelled. It was then the college football playoffs will end with those. I'll just go through the bowls first. So next we're into January, the Outback Bowl, and this is where we varied in most of our guesses. Penn State 2.5-point favorites facing off against Arkansas. I've loved Arkansas this year because I've been watching Treylon Burks and KJ Jefferson very closely. Ryan picked Penn State. I picked Arkansas. Arkansas came out on top 24 points to 10. So I took a 17-15 lead there. But I mean, this really wasn't pretty. KJ Jefferson had a poor day, 14 of 19 for 90 yards and an interception. Warren Thompson, I think the receiver, threw an interception as well when they tried a trick play. But the running game is where they did it all. KJ, 110 yards and a touchdown, 6 yards a carry. Dominique Johnson, 85 yards. Raheem Sanders, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns. Malik Hornsby, 67 yards. They just another one that ran down their throat, which is surprising with Penn State, because usually Penn State's run defense is pretty on point, but Arkansas, for whatever reason, were just able to beat them quite convincingly. Sean Clifford, poor day for him at quarterback for Penn State, 195 yards, touchdown and 2 interceptions. He was missing his favorite target, no Jahan Dotson in this one for him. Good season for Arkansas. After they were predicted to have a really rough one, bowl win, 9 wins during the season. They had one of the hardest strength of schedules out of sort of the top FBS teams. So really good year for them, but Penn State just petered out.
Penn State didn't even look interested. I don't even know why Clifford played. Well, there must have been a backup or someone that could have played because Clifford, he sucked. And he's been hurt a lot of the year. I'm surprised they even risked him. But no, they didn't turn up. They didn't look that interested. I've never been more disappointed than Penn State. What a way for their year to just pan out. But I hope things are going to turn around when Drew Aller comes in, this 5-star quarterback, because Penn State are on that boundary of falling out of contention in the Big Ten. They could really have a rough year next year unless some of these young kids actually turn up.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. It's a tough division. They really do need to fire back straight away, especially because Franklin's getting so much attention for head coaching jobs. You feel like you just need to be doing a little better given the state they are in at the moment. But yeah, Arkansas won the Outback Bowl. I was 2 points up by this time. Then we got the Citrus Bowl, Iowa, Kentucky. Kentucky 3-point favorites. Both of us went Kentucky. Kentucky won. Not much to say about this one, really, was there? It was very close, but yeah, not a lot in this one to raise many talking points.
Again, Iowa awful on offense, but we've known that all year. Spencer Petras, the dude sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Kentucky weren't great, but they didn't have to be better than average to literally just run through them. And the Iowa defense probably just knackered, to be honest, because it's had to work all year.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted a bit of a break early. Like you say, they've been on the pitch an awful lot. They've played incredibly well. So, great season for them. Still only gave 20 points up, which is fair to them. So, hopefully they can keep that together going forward. All right, we're nearly at the end now. So a couple of big scorers here. And Ryan will love this one. So it was the Fiesta Bowl, Notre Dame, 2-point favorites versus Oklahoma State. There's been a very love-hate relationship between Ryan and Notre Dame this year. However, I gave him the chance to, and he didn't. He actually bet on Notre Dame to win this. I went with Oklahoma State. Then one final little slap in the face to Ryan this year. Notre Dame went and lost on him. It was 37-35. However, their season, Notre Dame's season has been talked about quarterback play and it not been that good. Well, hell, Jack Cohn in this one threw for 510 yards, 5 touchdowns, and an interception. The run game just wasn't there. I think they got about 40 yards all told. They just put it all on Jack Cohn to win this one. The receivers had a field day and a half. Lorenzo Styles, 136 yards and a touchdown. Chris Tyree, 115 yards and a touchdown. Kevin Austin, 105 yards and a touchdown. Michael Meyer, 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. Braden Lenzy, 60 yards when they went absolutely crazy on this. But in fairness, Oklahoma State, they were just able to win this one out. Spencer Sanders, after his horrific championship game, had a real good day for himself. He was 34 of 51, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also rushed for 125 yards. Fair play to him. Jalen Warren rushed for 82 yards. And Devonta Vayan Martin. I love that name, Devonta Vayan. I've said it so many times this year. 104 yards and 3 touchdowns in the receiving game. Great game for him. Brennan Presley, 137, but no touchdowns. But again, this was a very offense-heavy game, and Oklahoma State just sneaked it out. And Notre Dame let you down one last time.
Where was this Spencer Sanders when it mattered in the championship game? I don't understand. That's really annoying. And Notre Dame, people give me shit because I don't give them. I tried to back them for once, and they go ahead and let me down. So that's it. Notre Dame Fighting Irish, you're dead to me next year.
Yeah, you heard it. You've lost him now. I was really, really shocked when he bet for you, and you just didn't do it for him. But fairness to Jack Cohn, he had a really good game. Maybe he's cementing himself in there. Who knows if he can have a good game next year? If he can have a good season next year, then they've done all right for themselves. Right, we've only got 2 left, so we're nearly there. This was you're down 19-16.
I'm losing by 3, yeah.
You're losing by 3. However, you win the next one. But I was so damn close to this, and I would have given up this victory for this one to happen. Rose Bowl, Ohio State, 6.5-point favorites facing Utah. I went bold and bet on Utah. Ryan went with Ohio State, and Utah started this game like a train on fire. They were 28-14 up at one stage. They got a kick return touchdown. They were moving it down the field so well. But Ohio State, as annoying as they are, just have such a potent offense. And even missing 2 of their 3 big receivers, it didn't matter because the one guy who was left had one hell of a game. So on Ohio State side, CJ Stroud is just a machine, the amount he throws. 37 of 46. 573 yards. Yes, nearly 600 yards, 6 touchdowns and an interception. Travion Henderson basically got the day off. He had 83 yards on just 17 carries, while CJ Stroud just throwed it. Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. Now, obviously, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave go into the draft, not in this one. Smith and Jigba is the 3rd guy of that triumvirate who's done well this season. 15 receptions, 347 yards, 23 yards per reception, 3 touchdowns. That is absolutely insane. You thought what Chase did in the NFL the other day was huge. 350 yards basically on his own. That's just mad. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. also stepped up, 6 for 71 and 3 touchdowns himself. And poor Utah, they did so well in this game and they just got beat out in the end. Cameron Rising did fine, 214 yards, 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 92 yards and got himself a rushing touchdown. Tavion Thomas got himself a touchdown as well. They had a trick play with Bryson Barnes throwing the ball. He got a touchdown from that. Britton Covey had a really good game. He had a really good return for a touchdown. It was about 96 yards, I think it was. He also got a receiving touchdown as well. This was the game of the bowls for me, I reckon. Out of all of them, this just had about everything in it. And I was so gutted that Utah missed out at the end.
I don't think Utah would be too disappointed. After the year they've found their quarterback in Cameron Rising. They've found players on defense like Nephi Sewell. They've got weapons all over. They're losing, like I said, they're losing Lloyd. Britton Covey's also going to the draft. But there's not much work to do there. I already made them favourites for the Pac-12 again next year because they're going to reload on talent because they're such a good team. And they've proved to everyone now that they can hang with the best in the country. Like, that was no fluke. Like I say, they matched Ohio State pretty much side for side. Jackson Smith and Jigba, an FBS bowl record for receiving yards. So he's smashed the record now for bowl history, the most receiving yards. He's a freshman. Like, maybe all along he was the star guy that we just didn't know or talk about. Maybe this is the kid we should have been watching all along. He's already got to one of the Heisman favourites for next year, along with Stroud and Henderson. They could send 3 players to the Heisman easily. You've got to make them one of the guys next year, one of the teams. Now these two have got chemistry. He is going to be dominant next year, like I say. And they started slow, but they're like good teams now to drive and dig out a win. Ryan Day will be really happy to end the season. That's been up and down. There's the talk about the Bears. Is he going to stick around at Ohio State? I don't quite know. I don't know what they're going to look like next year at Ohio State, but even if they do lose the head coach for any reason, they're just built for the future, aren't they? They're just full of kids having fun.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, like you say, there's 3 Heisman candidates in there potentially already. I mean, Harrison had a hell of a game as well. He could be one who, because there's going to be holes to fill now that Wilson and Olave have left. And it's going to be up to JSN to prove that he can thrive in their absence. But if this is anything to go by, then Jesus, he's going to be the next first round. He's going to be the next first round wide receiver coming from Ohio State very soon to an NFL Sunday near you. But oh yeah, this was a hell of a game. If you're going to go back and watch one bowl game, this is the one to watch. So that was down to 2 points. I was 19-17 up after that. Last 2, Sugar Bowl, Ole Miss versus Baylor. This was the only game where there was no favorite. They were both evens. However, I do have to asterisk this in that Matt Corral got injured, which was a hell of a shame. He threw a pick in like the first 10 seconds. He then got injured. Thankfully, it's come out that the injury is not too bad. I believe it's just a sprained ankle. There was worry that it was quite serious to start with, but he'll be fit for his pro days and for the combine, and he's likely going to go high in the draft. But in absence of him, Ole Miss just did not get going at all. Baylor won this 21-7. Ryan picked Ole Miss because obviously he's been a big fan of Corral and was expecting him to play all game. I took Baylor because I really like what Baylor have done this year. So I took the 3-point lead back again after this, but it was a shame with Corral. It sort of kind of robbed this game of any sense of fairness. Baylor just sort of coasted their way to the win as soon as he went off.
I think this could be a damning indictment of what Ole Miss look like next year with no quarterback. Jerry O'Neal, I think, pretty sure that back's declared for the draft. He didn't play either, I think. So they were down to like the second, third string quarterback and running back. Drummond is now gone as well. How do they replace all these next year? I know they've been crystal ball Zach Evans, the TCU running back. They kind of really need to get him. They need to bring in a high-pro quarterback because Lincoln Riley right now is probably looking. I mean, what am I about Lincoln? Lane Kiffin should probably be looking at like pretty worried about some of his positions because once Corral went down, they just went in the autopilot mode. Like, let's just end the year. He just did not look good, and Baylor really took it to them, even without getting out of third gear. You can make the case Corral should never have played, but he said I wanted to end the season with a ball win. I wanted to be with my players. I wanted to get the game won. He's lucky he didn't get hurt massively. Otherwise, it would have looked like a pretty foolish decision. But in the end, it just fizzled out. It should have been one of the best games of the entire ball season, but it turned into a damp squib. What a shame. What it was a sad way to end actually the ball season, essentially.
It was, yeah. Like I say, we got robbed of the prop ball there, but fair place to Baylor. They ended up having a good season in the Big 12. They got themselves a bowl win. They've set themselves up very well going forward. So props to them. And then finished off, like Ryan said this morning, the very last game, the Texas Bowl between LSU and Kansas State. Kansas State, were 1-point favorites for this. Ryan went with LSU. I went with Kansas State because I like what I've seen of them this year. And they had Skylar Thompson leading them. He's back from his injury. And they've got Deuce Vaughn, who was also playing. And they came through. Skylar Thompson had a really good game. Kansas State won 42-20. Didn't help by the fact that LSU were playing a wide receiver at quarterback. But Thompson went 259 yards, 3 touchdowns. Deuce Vaughn, the running back, 146 yards, 3 touchdowns. I've seen conversations actually saying if he carries on producing the way he does next year, he's an outside candidate for the Heisman as well. And I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. He's had a brilliant year. And if he carries on this level of production, he's going to do really well. Malik Knowles, 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's had a good year as well at receiver. On LSU's side, John Trey Kirkland, who's the guy who landed up at quarterback. I think he's a former wide receiver, as I said. I don't think he's really played there that much, but he threw for 138 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns, but also put a couple of picks in there as well. Yeah, this again, another one that wasn't really close in this. It was 21-7 at halftime. Kansas State just sort of rolled it out second half. But, if not for that injury to Skylar Thompson, they could have had a really good year. But 8 wins, a bowl win. It's not a bad season for them, really, is it? And they've got their main threat still coming back next year.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's a season that could have been. But they're on the cusp of being a force in the Big 12. It's just no one ever stays fit there. Skylar Thompson is just injury prone. Now, if he can have one good year, and Deuce Vaughn, as you mentioned, is called Deuce for a reason because he's a rushing and receiving threat. Probably the best back now in the division. Zach Evans has gone. I think as a total weapon, he might just pick Bijan Robinson. I think those two got a real shot at the Heisman next year, Kansas State. And disclaimer, when I picked LSU, they had some players. I picked LSU and then everyone left for the portal. They didn't have a quarterback. They got injured, like Keishon Butte, they all sat out. Like, I didn't know LSU were going to look like that when I picked them. It was a wide receiver playing quarterback. And to be fair, I saw one of the touchdowns he threw today. It was ridiculous. Across his body into the corner end zone and diving catch. Like, the kid's talented, but they never really stood a chance. I didn't stand a chance. All these bowl games getting cancelled. Lost at least 5 picks.
Yeah, LSU, they need to reset on the season there. As I say, I took Kansas State. It ended up, when all was said and done, I won 21-17. I ended up winning by 4, but it wasn't until those last group of fixtures. Now, obviously, if Matt Corral doesn't get injured, if LSU are fully fit, that soon changes. So thin margins, but again, you can't really get out for these bowl games. They're so difficult to predict. It's more luck than skill. So hey ho, but we had a little bit of fun. But yeah, that is the entire rundown of the bowl scene there. So that is the season pretty much wrapped up in a bow now. The only 2 games that are left, as I say, are both the championship games. The FCS one is this Saturday. The FBS one is not till the end of the month. Now I'm aware we've been going on some time, so we'll save the preview for the FBS championship game for another week or so, because I don't think it is the end of January. The last thing really for us to discuss are those FBS semi-final games. Neither of them really lived up to their billing. I mean, on Alabama's side, I guess we can sort of forgive them for theirs because the gap between them and Cincinnati was huge. So to anyone who doesn't know, Alabama won their semi-final 27 points to 6. Bryce Young, by his days, had a real quiet standard. 181 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he threw a pick. Brian Robinson, who is going to the Senior Bowl, he rushed for 200 yards pretty much on 25 carries, 8 yards a carry. Cincinnati had absolutely no comeback to him. And in the receiving game, Ja'Cory Brooks, Jameson Williams both got over 60 yards. Jameson Williams, a name to watch out for in the draft, he seems to be sneaking up now amongst the receiver groups as well. He snuck up into that first round in front of some of the others. As Ryan said, Desmond Ridder didn't have the best day. 17 of 32, 144 yards, no picks, no touchdowns. Jerome Ford had a quiet day by his standards, 15 carries, 77 yards for 5 yards a carry. I mean, this was just really about as one-sided as you could get, to be fair, and it was never really close.
No, I knew it wouldn't be. Cincinnati, they just couldn't keep hold of the ball. They just kept punting it away or turning over on downs. Like they were desperate because they could get no offense going. Reader was never comfortable in the pocket. You could see it like boy among the men. Like you could see Cincinnati, unfortunately, don't belong with them. They don't belong in the playoffs. They weren't able to hang with them in the aspect. I will say though, the passing defense Cincinnati was incredibly good. Armar Sauce Gardner has now completed 1,100 passing downs, I believe, or snaps where he's played cornerback, and he's never given up a touchdown. And that makes him cornerback 1 in the draft for me because he still looked good. He still played really well. He showed that huge IQ. He was about the only guy that held his own. Bryce Young never got out of third gear. Like I say, he didn't have to do very well. He was working over short field the entire time because Robinson did all the damage. He hammered them. Cincinnati could not stop the run for a try. He gashed them. And then when they got down to red zone, they were just like chip shots for Bryce Young. It was a very easy day. Didn't have to exert any energy. Didn't risk no injuries. And they look like a real force going into the final now. They will be happy they got out of that unscathed quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard to see who's really going to stop them at this point. They're just, even when they're not forced to do much, they just still look that much better than any other team does. And the team they're going to be facing in the final, they whooped a couple of weeks back, which brings us on to that second semi-final, the last game recap of the show. And the most disappointing one, Michigan versus Georgia. Hopes were so high for Michigan in this. A lot of people had Michigan as favorites. Georgia got their asses whooped a few weeks back, and you thought, well, if they can get in front, if they force Georgia to come from behind, could it be the same result? Well, no, it wasn't. Georgia ended up winning this one really, really comfortably, 34 points to 11. Georgia put up 27 of those points in the first half. The first 2 drives especially were so easy, and Michigan was so disappointing on defense. Georgia just tore through them. And when you concede that big a gap to a team with a defense which is this good, you're screwed. Because when they're that far in front, they can start just bringing pressure to the house. They can start blitzing. And if there's one thing Georgia's good at, it's defense. Their defense this year has been historical pretty much in its play. And Stetson Bennett rise to the occasion? Is he going to be able to take this game by the scruff of his neck and do well? And the answer was yes, he did. He threw 21 throws out of 31 attempts, 310 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kenny McIntosh also threw a touchdown pass. Rushing game, they were steady, about 5-6 yards per carry on average. Kept the chains rolling. Stetson Bennett kept the things moving. Michigan could not stop them. In the receiving game, James Cook, the running back we told you about, 4 receptions, 112 yards and a touchdown. Bear in mind, he only had 250 receiving yards all year. Most of them came in this one. Jermaine Burton, 1 reception for 57 yards and a touchdown. Brock Bowers, we spoke about him at the top of the show. The next freaky tight end option coming around. He got a touchdown, 5 receptions for 55 yards, and Adonai Mitchell got himself a touchdown as well in there. The defense feasted. Nakobe Dean, he got himself a sack and 7 tackles. Derion Kendrick, 2 interceptions on the day. He picked off, I think it was Cade twice. And then on the Michigan side of the ball, it was so disappointing. Cade, 106 yards, 2 interceptions. JJ McCarthy came in and did better, 131 yards and a touchdown. The running game, Hassan Haskins only got 4 yards per carry. He only rushed 9 times because they were that far behind. They had to get away from the run game. Blake Corum only got 3 carries for 10 yards. And then in the receiving game, not really much going earlier. Andre Anthony got a touchdown. That was really about it. And their defense had no effect on Stetson Bennett whatsoever. They put no pressure on him. Obviously, the big guy in there, Aiden Hutchinson, it was a master plan, basically. They double teamed him. They put tight ends on there to chip at him and block him. They double teamed him, and he had very little effect on this game. But So disappointing from the Wolverines.
Yeah, it's going to always be what could have been. It was total domination by Georgia. Stetson Bennett, I've always said he's a game manager because that's how he's always played. He's always played a bit like Ryan Tannehill. He's always just don't give away the ball, move downfield. But he was a bit more aggressive moving the ball downfield this game. He's taking shots when they were there. He wasn't relying on check downs to his tight end, which was for me was the key of the game. They were expecting a dink and dunk kind of offense, I feel like, but they came a bit more heavier than that did Georgia. They looked downfield more, took more shots, caught out these cornerbacks in the secondary, and it was a great performance. But as I said, no pressure. He had all day in that pocket. Alabama's, like I say, Georgia's always got like a pro offensive line. Like it's steady as a rock. But the double team touch, but Ajabo on the other side, even with like less attention, he still wasn't able to flush him out the other side. It just wasn't a great day on defense in general for them. And then unfortunate quarterbacks as well. Cave McNamara, one of his worst games of the year, came in the biggest time. It was a bit like rabbit in headlights. The interceptions weren't great. JJ McCarthy offered a little bit of relief, but no run game because they were too far behind. Within 3 drives, they were 14-0 down, and you just knew the game was over. You're not coming back from behind that against Georgia because they will put their foot on your throat and they crippled them. And I'm not surprised if that's Harbaugh's final game. It sucks if it is, but it does not surprise me if that's the way he's going to go out.
Yeah, it's a shame. I know there's been murmurings of him coming back to the NFL, especially his link with Chicago and Vegas, I believe, are the two that he's been linked with so far. But I know he's very interested in the Bears job, which will be kicking the teeth to all those Wolverines fans. But yeah, it was just disappointing. Like I say, when they were 14-0 down, that was it. You don't come back against Georgia. The only reason Alabama beat Georgia is because they didn't get behind and they were able to get in front. And then when you make this Georgia team fight from behind, that's when they're vulnerable, but not when they're 2 scores up. They'll just go to town on you. You'll force it. Derian Kendrick was just reading Jay McNamara's mind, picked him twice. Game over. Bob's your uncle, unfortunately. So still a really good season for them, but they would have liked a bit more fight, I think, in that one. So hopefully they can come back strong next year. I know they've got a very favorable schedule next year. I think I read somewhere they've got 9 home games in 12 fixtures, or it's at a minimum, it's 8 or 9 home fixtures next year. So there's no reason they can't make it back to the playoffs with a 12-0 record and give it another go. But we will see. So that means it's Georgia versus Alabama in the final. Alabama whooped Georgia a few weeks back. Is the same going to happen again? We don't know. We will give that a little bit more coverage going forward, but we're aware we've been going for a lot of time now, so we're probably going to wrap most things. Is there anything else you want to get sorted this week whilst we're here?
No, it feels like a nice ball we've put on it. It's all gift wrap the season up for everyone now. Like
Exactly.
2 games left, and like I say, there could be an upset in one of them. So it's all done for another year. Like I say, bowl season. I hope next year, obviously going into winter, I hope COVID won't be an issue again because it ruined what could have been a great series.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully we've been able to get everything under control and it's not such a pain in the neck. So yeah, I agree. Hopefully so. But yeah, that is just about everything for us today. Thank you for bearing in with us. I know a lot of people who started are still with us. Do really appreciate it. So hopefully, we've gone all over the stuff, the Senior Bowl, etc. Senior Bowl is up soon. We'll let you know when, and hopefully there's a few players now that you can go out there and watch, and hopefully we gave you some good tips on who we'll be able to see. So there, in terms of the next episodes, obviously the main Roar Alliance podcast will be back tomorrow, Thursday, the 6th of January. We will be doing the preview for our last game of the season against the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, a very fun game. They're coming to Ford Field. Who knows who's playing? COVID's wreaking havoc with both sides, and the Packers have got the number 1 spot lined up for the playoffs, so their main guys are probably not going to play often. So could there be an upset on the cards? Who knows? I know this is the first time all season the Lions have been favourites, and I don't like it one bit. I don't want to be favourites against the Packers right now. I want us to be the plucky underdogs, not the favourites getting upset, he says, with massive capitals. But yeah, join us tomorrow as we go through the Packers preview and all the other Lions news, because there are little bits and bobs dropping around here. In terms of us with the college podcast, we will likely be back next week, the 12th of January on the Wednesday. With the season pretty much wrapped up in a bow now, we're going to be going on to Draft Chatter. So we'd probably be relying on you, our listeners. If you have any requests, if you want us to look for players, etc., just let us know and we'll crack on with that. I know I've started my review of tape today. I'm starting with George Karlaftis. The video is going to be up soon when I've got footage of him this season. But obviously, he's one of the players I like most. So just let us know who you want to look for. We'll do some scouting there for you, or whether it's just positional groups, etc. Or if you've just got questions about the draft in general, that's probably what the episode's going to be built on going forward. So we do need your help for that. And then obviously when we get closer to the FBS Championship game, we'll do a show dedicated to that as well. Ash says the Packers are favourites again by 2 points. Okay, I don't mind that. I'll be the plucky.
That's because Matt LaFleur came out and said that Rodgers will start and they'll probably play a half. So they expect they'll be destroyed by halftime and they'll stay everyone.
I'm just looking forward to seeing the laser show versus Jordan Love. It is going to be a terrible battle between quarterbacks, the backups of Green Bay. But no, I'm joking. Hopefully Boyle comes out and has a good game. Ends the season. In fact, saying that, Goff might be fit, so you never know.
Hopefully Boyle doesn't have to play.
Yeah, the upset could be there, so who knows? But yeah, that's in terms of the next two shows there. Obviously, this is the last week of the NFL season, so our Roar of the Lions podcast, we will be going back to Mondays only during the week, and we'll be keeping the college pod for Wednesday during the week at the moment. So there'll be a little less of us during the week, but that doesn't mean we're not going to be here for 2 hours, most pods, talking about this. So, you know, you're still gonna have us there for plenty of time. Just reminds me to go through all our socials. So you can find us all over the web. On Facebook, you can find us at our group, Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide, or our actual page, Roar of the Lions UK. On YouTube, obviously with us now, Roar of the Lions UK. Please subscribe to us if you do enjoy what we do. We're over 300 now and going on up. We do appreciate all the support we get there. On Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, it's ROTL_UK, all in capitals. We've just gone above 1,800 followers on Twitter. So again, thank you very much for that. Keep that coming. Instagram and Twitch are starting to get busy as well. With Twitch, if you are on there, sorry we're not being able to chat with this evening. I tried to get a password off Matt for it, but I did it too many times and it locked us out. So I'm going to have to get that sorted. But if you can subscribe to us on Twitch, that would be great, so we can get ourselves up to affiliate status on there and do even more there for the podcast. And then obviously we've got the website as well, www.roarofthelionsuk.com. Go on there and find the latest articles and bits from us. I know it's been a little quiet recently, but we've been chatting today and we will be getting lots more writing going up on there in the near future, especially about the draft. So again, if you have any requests about anything you want to do regards to the Lions and the draft, just send them to us and we will oblige, get those sorted for you. Just remains for me to thank Ryan, my colleague here, for this evening, and we shall see you again tomorrow to talk Lions at Packers when we can roundly go FTP.
Exactly. F the Packers.
F the Packers. But until then, as I say, thank you very much for joining in with us. We really, really do appreciate you coming and watching the podcast here with us. So thanks ever so much. And until next time, One Pride.
One Pride.